Chapter 192. Let's see how you're going to block it. Chu Laqin stared at the rapidly spinning giant fireball. Following the explosion of the vermilion bird's energy, she took a step forward, formed a seal with both hands, and suddenly blasted it out. Vermilion bird seal. The moment Chu Laqin condensed the vermilion bird seal, violent flames erupted like a volcano. In an instant, the endless flames, containing terrifying power and pressure, swept towards Chen Hao. Boom! The flames that contained the aura of the heavenly fire were indeed extremely powerful. The moment that vermilion bird seal was used, its momentum was terrifying. The raging flames had completely turned a deep blue color. Even the space within the stage started to distort, rippling violently as if it could not withstand the high temperature of the flames and was about to collapse. Go for me! Sensing that Chu Laqin had unleashed the vermilion bird seal, Chen Hao's expression was calm and unperturbed. Amidst the flames, his two palms were drawing graceful arcs. At this moment, his body suddenly trembled, and his palms instantly transformed into numerous afterimages. Softness turned to toughness as he abruptly struck out. Boom! The spinning giant fireball suddenly separated from Chen Hao's body like a tornado, setting off monstrous waves of fire. Jeeth! At the same time, the shadow of the phoenix flew out from above Chen Hao's head and let out a cry that resounded through the heavens and earth. The terrifying nirvana flame instantly condensed into the phoenix seal. It contained an incomparably terrifying energy as it whistled towards the vermilion bird seal. How is this possible? Sensing the power of the phoenix, the vermilion bird that had condensed the seal was filled with shock. Fire, it was the nirvana flames that were of a lower level than it, but the energy contained within was so vigorous that it had reached an inconceivable realm. What made it even more surprised was that it seemed to have caught a trace of familiar energy. That energy was definitely something that only the Azure Dragon possessed. The wood attribute was extremely derived from the wind attribute, and because of this, when the three types of energy were superimposed, fire would burn wood, and wind would blow fire, causing its power to increase by many times. How could the vermilion bird not be shocked? However, the vermilion bird seal had already condensed, and it was too late to stop. Whoosh! Just as the two ultimate moves were about to collide, Chen Hao was like a gust of wind that blended into the world. Using the carefree steps, he held the invincible golden crystal sword in his hand. Withstanding the endless flames that contained the aura of the heavenly fire, he was as fast as lightning, silently stabbing towards Chu Laqin's right chest. At this moment, all of Chu Laqin's attention was focused on activating the vermilion bird seal, and the energy in her body was being crazily extracted. How could she have known that Chen Hao, who had used the phoenix seal, could still withdraw? This was absolutely inconceivable. This was because any cultivator would not be able to divert their attention when they performed such an ultimate technique that completely surpassed their own level. Not to mention, he had to multitask to escape and attack the enemy at the same time. But Chen Hao did it. This was because not only did he have the Azure Dragon's energy to support the little bird, he also had the mysterious existence in his mind to control it. However, Chen Hao's figure had indeed disappeared from the spot. Chu Laqin's eyes widened, and all the hairs on her body stood on end. Although she did not understand how Chen Hao did it, she knew that she was now in absolute danger. Someone who had used the phoenix seal and still had the energy to attack her body, how could she resist? I concede. Without any hesitation, Chu Laqin frantically activated the vermilion bird seal, and at the same time she could not move, she cried out in alarm. Unfortunately, before she could say the word lose, a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared in front of her. Chu Laqin's eyes widened in shock, and her eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. Risking the backlash of the vermilion bird seal, she sent out an attack behind her. But even so, her full and round breasts were still pierced through by the treasured sword behind her. A dazzling golden sword tip was revealed, and then it disappeared. The sword was drawn and sheathed, extremely fast. The moment the sword was drawn, Chu Laqin felt a terrifying devouring power that caused the essence blood in her body to spurt out, turning into a blood arrow that flew towards the vermilion bird seal. Right chest. not the left chest. This was the only thing that made Chu Laqin feel fortunate, but also slightly puzzled. Without a doubt, her desperate attack had been effective, and it had hit Chen Hao. But Chu Laqin was clear that in the process of the vermilion bird seal crazily absorbing energy, her attack was not very effective. Chen Hao clearly could have pierced his heart, so why did he avoid it and let her go? Rumble, the two strongest attacks finally collided. Dazzling and terrifying flames filled the entire stage, and the ground shook. The temperature of the entire martial arts practice field suddenly rose by several times, causing the air to churn terrifyingly. Gusts of wind suddenly rose in a radius of 10 miles. Chu Laqin's eyes widened. The moment the vermilion bird seal exploded, all the energy in her body had been sucked dry. At the same time, because she had also received the backlash of the vermilion bird seal, she fell onto the stage with a bang. Chen Hao, who had received Chu Laqin's attack, also tumbled down from the sky. The phoenix seal, or more accurately, the phoenix seal, had also sucked out all of his energy and fell onto the ground. Jeez. After a loud and clear cry, a figure that seemed to have exhausted all of its energy disappeared into Chen Hao's body. The battle ended. You're very strong. Unfortunately, you underestimated your opponent too much. When the flames disappeared, the two figures appeared on the stage. They were in a sorry state, and they struggled to stand up. Chen Hao stared at Chu Laqin, who was clutching her chest as she struggled to stand up. However, at this moment, Chu Laqin's expression changed drastically, and her heart was filled with shock. It was not because Chen Hao had spared her life, nor was it because she had lost the battle, but she could no longer sense the aura of the vermilion bird divine beast's inheritance. She wanted to question Chen Hao, but she forcibly suppressed the urge to speak. Yes, she could not speak. If Chen Hao gave her a definite answer, what would the result be? Everyone would know that she had lost the vermilion bird divine beast's inheritance. With her current ranking and cultivation level of the martial sage realm, she could choose any of the sects present. But what about after entering a sect? The treatment would probably be two different concepts. Moreover, she could not be sure if the vermilion bird divine beast's inheritance was really gone. It could also be that the injury was hidden in the depths of her mind, right? Chu Laqin quickly forced herself to calm down and stared at Chen Hao without batting an eyelid. This match is a draw. Sensing the aura of the two, the referee immediately announced. A draw. It's actually a draw again. It seems that the power of the divine beast's inheritance is about the same, and no one can do anything to the other. In fact, Chen Hao's inheritance is much weaker. What's strong is his combat strength, which makes up for the weakness. If he did not use his strange movement technique and risk the phoenix seal's backlash to stab with his sword, I'm afraid it would not be a draw. Indeed, the phoenix inheritance is originally of little value. For Chen Hao to use it to such an extent, I'm afraid only a super abnormal talent like his would be able to do so, right? When Chen Hao and Chu Laqin returned to their seats, countless people's eyes focused on Chen Hao as they discussed. No one knew that Chen Hao was actually not injured at all. His current appearance was completely faked. In this battle, he did not even reveal his aura as a saint because the color of his elemental energy did not change. Moreover, Chen Hao's powerful soul power had even fooled the elders on the rostrum. Chen Hao did not kill Chu Laqin on purpose. He thought of all kinds of possibilities and finally chose this. Perhaps this was the only way to quietly capture all the inheritances of the 5 divine beasts without scaring anyone. Moreover, Chen Hao was sure that if Chu Laqin was not stupid, she would not reveal that the vermilion bird's inheritance had disappeared. The only regret was that although Chen Hao had the highest chance of collecting all the inheritances of the divine beasts, he might lose to Lung Yihan in the 100 Empire rankings. But there was no other way. Chen Hao could only do this. Although he did not know what Lung Yihan's conditions were, the two of them had agreed not to force each other. Therefore, Chen Hao did not care much. The last battle of the day, the 10th battle, Lung Yihan versus Qiyu. Please enter the arena. While the crowd was still discussing, the referee's voice rang out again. Yu Qiyu, the inheritor of the divine beast White Tiger. Among the 5 divine beasts, if the black tortoise's defense was the strongest, then the White Tiger's attack was the strongest. Not in terms of strength, but attack. The White Tiger was a metal-type divine beast. Its strength was not as vast as the Qilin's, but its attack was the sharpest and most invincible. The enchanting and seductive Yuqiu flew into the arena with a serious expression. Among the 5 people, whether it was Yuqiu or the others, the one they did not want to meet the most was Leng Yihan. Leng Yihan, who had comprehended the true essence of space and was extremely powerful, could be fatal when he attacked. Even if he was only a 9th-grade martial grandmaster, no one knew if his martial sage realm and inheritance could withstand Leng Yihan's attack. Even Chen Hao could not be sure before they fought. The only person who was not worried was the Black Tortoise inheritor, Liu Ran. He did not know if the others could do it, but he had absolute confidence in the defense of the Black Tortoise shell. When the referee announced the start of the match, Yuqiu did not hesitate to bring up layers of protective aura. It was the 7-colored protective aura that symbolized the martial saint realm. However, there was a slight difference. Her 7-colored aura was filled with majestic golden energy. It was obvious that the metallic energy had taken the dominant position. The White Tiger Phantom also merged with Yuqiu's body at the fastest speed. The sharp and unparalleled aura was like an invincible sword light. It carried a cold aura and pierced into the hearts of the crowd. The crowd that was still discussing suddenly quieted down. They all held their breaths and stared at the arena with wide eyes. However, what surprised everyone was that Leng Yihan's figure, which was as straight as a sword, did not release any aura. Only his sharp and soul-stirring eyes were staring at the enchanting Yuqiu. He said lightly, "Make your move. Let me see how powerful the White Tiger's attack is. Last 3 days, I beg for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you." Chapter 193. For 2 whole minutes, Leng Yihan did not use his mysterious space attribute True Essence. Instead, he relied on his own powerful combat power to fight Yuqiu head-on. What surprised Chen Hao and the others was that Leng Yihan's attacks were so fierce that he seemed more like the inheritor of the White Tiger inheritance than Yuqiu. He actually suppressed Yuqiu. Yuqiu had no choice but to admit defeat without even using her White Tiger seal. She knew that even if she used the White Tiger seal, she wouldn't be able to stop Leng Yihan, who had comprehended the space attribute. Thinking of Leng Yihan's stunning sword, Yuqiu didn't need to joke around with her life. After the day's battles, everyone had a clear idea of who was stronger and who was weaker. Leng Yihan, who could force Yuqiu to admit defeat, had undoubtedly stood out from the other 6. He was the most likely contestant to win the championship without much suspense. There were only 2 matches left that everyone looked forward to the most. One of the matches was originally between Yuqiu of the White Tiger inheritance and Liu Ran of the Black Tortoise inheritance, but now it was between Leng Yihan and Liu Ran, whose attacks were more aggressive. The second match was between Leng Yihan and Chen Hao. Although Chen Hao had the Phoenix inheritance, Chen Hao was stronger in his own unique skills, realm, and battle strength. Moreover, he had comprehended the wind attribute. Perhaps only the battle between Chen Hao and Leng Yihan would be the most exciting battle. Without a divine beast seal that surpassed their own realm, the 2 were destined to display their true battle strength. The next day, after Tantai Lian and the other 3 teams finished their 6 matches, the 7th match was between Leng Yihan and Ao Huaguang. The battle went as expected. Leng Yihan used his terrifying battle strength to defeat Ao Huaguang, who had used the Qilin seal. What made Ao Huaguang grateful, what made the audience confused, and what made the elders on the rostrum nod their heads slightly was that Leng Yihan, who had the ability to kill Ao Huaguang, actually broke Ao Huaguang's Qilin seal and only placed his sword on Ao Huaguang's neck, who had lost his energy. At that moment, everyone knew that if Leng Yihan wanted to kill Ao Huaguang wouldn't have the time to admit defeat. The 8th match was between Chu Liqin and Liu Ran. To everyone's surprise, Chu Liqin actually admitted defeat. His complexion didn't look good, as if he hadn't recovered from his battle with Chen Hao the day before. When they thought about Liu Ran's abnormal defensive capabilities, they did not find it too strange. The 9th match was between Chen Hao and Qiyu. This time, as everyone expected, Yuqiu and Chen Hao both used their divine beast seals and finished the battle. It was a draw, and both of them were seriously injured. The third day was a little strange. The first match was between Chu Laqin and Chiyu. After the referee called out their names, what no one expected was that both of them actually said, "I admit defeat," in unison. Both the referee and the audience were confused. The two of them looked at each other in surprise. Their eyes contained a trace of surprise, which gradually turned into deep frowns. A draw. A moment later, the two of them spoke at the same time. They actually shook hands and made peace in such a miraculous way. Everyone was puzzled. Could it be that they had already fought to this point and no longer had the heart to compete? The second match of the top 6 was between Qin Hao and Ao Huaguang of the Qilin inheritance. The final result was the same as Qin Hao's previous 2 matches, a draw and a serious injury. Ao Huaguang, who was as majestic as an iron tower, was extremely embarrassed and confused as he was taken off the stage. The third match finally ushered in the most anticipated match, Leng Yihan vs. Liu Ran. Originally, everyone thought that Leng Yihan would most likely draw this match, but to everyone's surprise, Leng Yihan actually ended the battle in half a minute, leaving everyone dumbfounded. The incomparably hard turtle shell defense was like nothing under Leng Yihan's sharp sword. It was directly penetrated. Liu Ran, who was extremely confident, broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, Leng Yihan only seriously injured him and did not take his life. Perhaps it was deliberately arranged by the arbitration team to make the most anticipated battle between Qin Hao and Leng Yihan the last day. Therefore, on the fourth day, Qin Hao met the last divine beast inheritor, Liu Ran. No one noticed that Chu Laqin, Yu Chiyu, and Ao Huaguang were exchanging glances from time to time. Occasionally, they would look at the calm Qin Hao, but the three of them revealed extreme fear in their eyes. Others might not understand, but the three of them had encountered the same thing. Moreover, with Chu Laqin and Yu Chiyu's performance yesterday, the three of them were enlightened. That was, all the divine beast inheritors who fought Qin Hao had their divine beast inheritors destroyed. The three of them were well aware, but no one said it out loud. Of course, if they knew that Qin Hao did not only destroy their divine beast inheritors, but also obtain their divine beast inheritors, they would be even more terrified. Unfortunately, it was impossible for Qin Hao to expose himself. In the first 2 matches, Chu Laqin directly admitted defeat against Leng Yihan. Ao Huaguang and Yu Chiyu shook hands again and chose to draw. Qin Hao and Liu Ran appeared at the same time. Leng Yihan could break Liu Ran's attack. It could only be said that Leng Yihan was too abnormal. Liu Ran did not think that Qin Hao could break his defense. So far, except for Leng Yihan, the others were all tied. Moreover, in everyone's opinion, this match should also be a draw. But unexpectedly, when Qin Hao's sea of fire engulfed the divine beast tortoise shell, Qin Hao's figure flashed across like a stream of light. A sword, like Leng Yihan's sword, easily pierced through Liu Ran's tortoise shell. When Liu Ran's essence blood spurted out, the raging fire burned even more fiercely, and the phoenix seal was fully released. Liu Ran was like a dead pig. Qin Hao carried him by the neck and escaped the sea of fire. At least his life was saved. At this time, everyone was shocked to find that Qin Hao, who had also used the phoenix seal this time, was actually not exhausted. His figure was as straight as a sword, and on his peerlessly handsome face, there was a faint smile. Qin Hao won. Except for Chu Laqin and the other 2, and Leng Yihan, no one thought that this would be the result, and that the battle would end so quickly. When Qin Hao leaped down from the arena, the crowd in the entire martial arts practice field was incomparably shocked. With a hubbub, they started to discuss animatedly. It had to be said that although the battles in the past few days were exciting, there were no unexpected situations. Everything seemed to be within everyone's expectations. On the other hand, Qin Hao's unexpected performance finally caused a ripple. Could it be that Qin Hao had been hiding his strength? Not likely. Who didn't want to be ranked higher? Who didn't want to be the champion? For experts like Qin Hao, entering a sect was already at the point where they could choose freely. The higher the ranking, the greater the reward of the 100 Empire ranking. Moreover, the 100 Empire ranking was very famous even in the cultivation world. Especially the champion of the 100 Empire ranking. It not only symbolized glory, but also the importance of entering a sect. Moreover, whichever sect the champion chose was also a matter of pride for that sect. How could it not be important? Therefore, Chen Hao shouldn't have been hiding his strength on purpose. Instead, he had grown rapidly during the battle. Especially that sharp and terrifying sword, which was exactly the same as Lung Yihan's. Because of this, the battle between Lung Yihan and Chen Hao, which had been relatively clear, became even more confusing. According to the points, Lung Yihan was already in first place. Even if Chen Hao could defeat Lung Yihan, he wouldn't be able to shake his position. However, if Chen Hao could win, Lung Yihan's title as champion would undoubtedly be much lighter. It would even be overshadowed by Chen Hao's second-place glory. Therefore, whether it was for Chen Hao or Lung Yihan, the championship was no longer important. What was important was who would win the battle between the two of them. This most important battle was not held as scheduled. Instead, it was scheduled for the last battle of the 100 Empire ranking competition by the judges. 3 days later, Tan Tai Lien and the other contestants' round-robin matches were finally completed. Tan Tai Lien, who was an 8th grade E Grandmaster and had the inheritance of the Phoenix, won 11 matches without much suspense. She was only second to the top 6, Meng Yi and Gao Jianfei, and ranked 9th. The sun was shining brightly in the clear sky. Under everyone's anticipation, Lung Yihan and Chen Hao's names finally came out from the judge's mouth. Chen Hao and Lung Yihan looked at each other and flew into the air at the same time. Chen Hao turned into a gust of wind and landed silently on the arena. Lung Yihan, on the other hand, flashed and appeared before Chen Hao. Both of them wore white robes and were equally handsome, but Chen Hao was more masculine. Lung Yihan's thin lips curled up slightly, but he looked extremely feminine. Coupled with his terrifying eyes that were as sharp as swords, he gave off a chilling aura. When the judge announced the start of the match, neither of them moved. Neither of them even increased their fighting spirit and energy. How about another bet? Chen Hao suddenly said. Lung Yihan frowned slightly and said, "You already owe me twice. Let's bet twice this time. If we lose, I'll owe you 4 times. If we win, we'll call it even." Chen Hao said with a smile. "Don't worry about having too many debts. You can say that. Why are you scared?" Hearing Chen Hao's words, Lung Yihan's slender eyebrows twitched slightly. He glanced at Chen Hao and said, "I'll satisfy you." As soon as Lung Yihan finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared from everyone's sight. Boom! At the same time, Chen Hao's body exploded with a roar. A bright rainbow light suddenly shone, and a majestic and terrifying aura suddenly spread out in all directions. At this moment, Chen Hao's expression became extremely serious. His mind was completely released, sensing Lung Yihan's aura. Lung Yihan. When Chen Hao first met Lung Yihan, he didn't have any chance of winning. But now, Chen Hao, whose realm and strength had increased countless times, still didn't have any confidence. This battle was definitely the most difficult battle Chen Hao had ever encountered. The speed of the space attributes true essence, as well as the aura of merging with all things in the world that was higher than his own realm. This made Chen Hao's fighting spirit soar wildly. He didn't dare to be careless. Second update. Monthly votes, recommendation votes. There's a third update tonight. These 2 updates are very slow. After the 100 Empire rankings, the real exciting cultivation world will begin. Chapter 194. However, Chen Hao did not intend to use the power of the divine beast's inheritance. First, he had not mastered them yet. Second, he was able to absorb all 5 mythological beasts into his body. It was more or less thanks to Lung Yihan. Using them against Lung Yihan now was unreasonable. Third, he could not expose himself. Otherwise, it would be too shocking. It was already very shocking to be able to destroy the other party's divine beast's inheritance, let alone forcefully take it. Whoosh! A cool breeze blew. Chen Hao, who was surrounded by a dazzling 7-colored light, slowly opened his palms. A golden sword appeared in Chen Hao's right hand in front of him. He lowered his center of gravity and took a step forward. A gentle wind blew. His aura at this moment was clearly in a state of battle, but it gave people a feeling of extreme calmness, lightness, elegance, and otherworldly. The gentle wind blew his bangs, and the majestic protective upstanding Qi became soft and agile like a docile lamb. Even Chen Hao's originally fierce gaze seemed to have entered into a profound state at this moment, and it was devoid of sorrow or joy. It was even to the extent that it didn't reveal the slightest trace of battle intent. Leng Yihan also disappeared without a trace. Such a strange atmosphere made everyone in the martial arts practice field hold their breaths. Everyone knew that these two super geniuses who stood out in the 100 Empire ranking had entered the calm before the storm. It was fine if they did not make a move, but when they did, it would be earth-shattering. Martial saint? He's actually a martial saint? How is this possible? Did he become a martial saint yesterday? In the silent martial arts practice field, countless people were shocked when they saw the seven-colored light on Chen Hao's body. Although they did not dare to break the silence, they were extremely shocked. 1 minute, 2 minutes. After a full 3 minutes, the martial arts practice field was still silent. At this moment, some ordinary cultivators felt that they were about to suffocate. However, the two of them still did not make a move. On the combat arena, only Chen Hao's figure that was composed and at ease still maintained his agile posture, and the breeze still blew by him. As for Leng Yihan, who seemed to have disappeared, there was no aura at all. Everyone knew that the two of them had entered a stalemate before they even made a move. The seemingly passive Chen Hao seemed to be unable to find any flaws in Leng Yihan's attacks. Could it be that even Leng Yihan, who was extremely fast and fierce, was unable to break through the silent Chen Hao? At the 4th minute, a sword light that was 1,000 feet away from Chen Hao seemed to have caught the gap in the wind. It suddenly flashed with a sharp sword light, as if it had torn the void, and attacked Chen Hao at a terrifying speed. In an instant, it had reached Chen Hao's back. No one could describe how fast this sword was. At least, none of the cultivators below the martial god realm were confident that they could be so fast. No one thought that their attacks could be so fierce. Terrified screams erupted from the throats of countless people the moment Leng Yihan's sharp sword light appeared. However, before the screams could be heard, the sword light that was 1,000 feet away was only 10 feet away from Chen Hao's back. Bang! Ding! Boom! The moment Leng Yihan's sword light pierced through Chen Hao's protective qi, Chen Hao, whose hair stood on end, moved as fast as lightning. He turned around, swung his sword, and returned to his original position. It was all done in an instant. At this moment, the screams of the crowd finally rang out. However, Chen Hao and Leng Yihan's first probing exchange had already ended. In the eyes of the crowd, Chen Hao didn't seem to have moved at all. Only the exploding sword light and the terrifying explosion of energy made the crowd understand that Leng Yihan had already launched an earth-shattering attack. And Chen Hao was the first person to block Leng Yihan's attack. Amazing! Using in action. Chen Hao, you're the first person to block my sneak attack. However, this alone isn't enough. Fearful. Leng Yihan's voice could only be heard but not seen. Leng Yihan's voice seemed to come from all directions. The position of each word was different. Moreover, Chen Hao really couldn't sense any of Leng Yihan's aura. Although Chen Hao blocked Leng Yihan's first attack, he was still extremely shocked. His mind was in the perfect state of Tai Chi and virtuous as water. Without a doubt, his reaction was the sharpest at this moment. He was as still as a virgin and as agile as a rabbit. However, even so, Leng Yihan's sword light still broke through his protective qi before he could block it in time. If he had been a little faster, he would have been stabbed. Moreover, from the aura of Leng Yihan's sword light, Chen Hao could clearly tell that Leng Yihan had reached the state of controlling the sword light from a distance. This state was not something that Chen Hao could compare to. Hearing Leng Yihan's words, Chen Hao frowned slightly. What if he's a little faster? Although I can react the fastest by remaining still, I'm still in a passive position. His speed is already unbelievably fast, and I have to reach him first. Whoosh! Chen Hao instantly changed his strategy. Suddenly, a gust of wind rose around him, and Chen Hao's figure disappeared from the arena. The breeze within 100 feet turned into a gust of wind that swept through the entire arena. Sensing Chen Hao's disappearance, Leng Yihan, who was hidden in the void, revealed a smug smile. "I'm not afraid of you moving, I'm afraid of you remaining still." Silence, especially Chen Hao's posture, made it difficult for Leng Yihan to find an opening. What did it mean to be in a stalemate for 5 minutes? It meant that Leng Yihan had a headache? Because he was traveling through space at this time, it consumed a lot of energy. Therefore, Leng Yihan had no choice but to attack. In the eyes of the audience, this was the first time they had fought, but could it be that the sword light had integrated all of Leng Yihan's knowledge? The true essence of the space attribute and the energy of merging with everything in the world was displayed to the extreme? The only thing lacking was that the attack was a little weak. In addition to his own words, Chen Hao could not hold it in anymore. Of course, Leng Yihan was pleased. Although he had used a little trick, didn't Chen Hao still hide the fact that he had entered the martial saint realm? Otherwise, he would have been prepared. There was no need to use a trick now. If he moved, there would be an opening. If there was an opening, he could break through. The weak defeated the strong. Yes, the weak defeated the strong. Leng Yihan was only a 9th grade martial grandmaster. Moreover, he could sense that Chen Hao's energy was far more powerful than other martial saints. It was terrifyingly powerful. Leng Yihan was sure that even a 4th grade martial saint's energy would not be as powerful as Chen Hao's. Leng Yihan's innately powerful perception immediately spread out. In an instant, he caught sight of Chen Hao's aura in the colorless and formless wind. How could the true essence of the wind attribute be hidden from him? Merging with everything in the world was even more impossible. This was because Leng Yihan's realm of merging with everything in the world was much higher than Chen Hao's. Chen Hao was naturally aware of Leng Yihan's abnormal perception. He had already known this when he was searching for spiritual herbs in the Endless Sea. At that time, he had also merged with the wind, but Leng Yihan had still directly locked onto him. However, Chen Hao still did it. There was no other way. Moving was always more active than waiting passively. At least, after seeing Leng Yihan's terrifying speed, Chen Hao felt that he had to do it. Hiss. Suddenly, a strange fluctuation appeared in the space amidst the wild wind. Strands of twisting, snake-like strands surged towards Chen Hao from all directions without any particular order. Radiant sword technique, 100 sword slash. Hiss. At the same time, Leng Yihan's cold voice suddenly rang out. As the word slash left his mouth, the twisting space turned into streaks of cold and sharp sword light. Containing extremely condensed energy, there were at least 100 streaks that shot toward Chen Hao at a terrifying speed. Faintly, they formed a crisscrossing sword net that seemed to divide the entire space into pieces. Each piece was only 2 feet in size. Who could dodge it? Other than rats that could dig holes, no one could dodge such a dense and sharp attack. What pure and condensed energy! The elders on the rostrum exclaimed when they saw Leng Yihan's attack. It had to be known that the more powerful the energy, the more intense the ripples would be. However, Leng Yihan's sword net was like a cold sword light. It did not cause any ripples in space, nor did it spread any energy in all directions. It was like a 3-dimensional net made of thin lines. Any person or object would only explode the moment they touched it. And the crisscrossing energy was undoubtedly 100 swords combined into one. This kind of attack had the attribute of an all-around attack. However, if there was only one person within its range, it would become a single-target attack. From this, one could see how powerful he was. It seemed that Chen Hao had no other choice but to take it head-on. After Leng Yihan made this attack, his figure finally appeared in the void. At the same time, the aura around him soared crazily, shining with incomparable light. What surprised everyone was that a wave of extremely cold energy instantly spread out. The tyrannical pressure made everyone tremble in fear. It was obvious that Leng Yihan did not expect the 100 sword cuts to defeat Chen Hao. That was just an appetizer before his real attack. When the 100 sword cuts collided with Chen Hao, it was time for him to make a shocking attack. It took a long time to describe, but in reality, it all happened in an instant. But, shrink. When Leng Yihan gathered the terrifying cold energy, Chen Hao also exploded with a clear shout. He, who had merged into the wind, had indeed appeared under Lung Yihan's all-around blockade. After all, merging into the wind did not mean that his body could really turn into air. If he did not appear, he would only be cut into pieces. Therefore, Chen Hao appeared. But, following his shout, what made everyone dumbfounded was that the moment the dense sword net pierced through his body, Chen Hao's body trembled and twisted at a terrifying speed. Accompanied by extremely strange cracking sounds, Chen Hao's body strangely shrunk into a ball. With a swoosh sound, he turned into a stream of light and shuttled through the dense sword net. He did not touch any of the sword lights. The moment he passed through, his entire body suddenly stretched and stretched. Incomparably violent energy instantly gathered in his body. Third update. Monthly votes, recommendation votes. Thank you. Chapter 195. There's more than a day left. Begging for monthly votes. Recommendation votes. There will be 4 chapters today. Please, everyone. What kind of secret technique is this? In the martial arts practice field, countless eyes stared at Chen Hao's figure in shock. Even Lung Yihan and the elders on the platform were no exception. That contraction and expansion was simply too inconceivable. How much had he shrunk? No one dared to imagine. Martial artists, even if they were at the saint level, were only at the innate realm. They were far from the realm of transformation. But just now, Chen Hao had shrunk his body by several times. His head seemed to have shrunk into his chest, and his limbs were folded and shrunk into a small ball. Without giving the audience much time to be shocked, Chen Hao's energy reached its peak. He took a step forward, and with a whoosh he attacked Lung Yihan with his sword. At this moment, Lung Yihan, who had also raised his yin energy to its peak, had reached the point where he had no choice but to release it. Ding 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 ding. Boom 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 boom. In an instant, the two figures intertwined, shuttling back and forth in the space of the martial arts practice field. Their movements and attacks were so fast that the audience was dazzled and unable to take it all in. Every move of the dazzling and terrifying sword light contained the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. In just a few breaths of time, the entire arena was already in a state of devastation. Numerous fine but deep sword scars crisscrossed the arena, and even the incomparably powerful ceiling barrier had cracks appearing on its surface. It was easy to imagine how condensed their energy was. With a flick of Lung Yihan's wrist, there were several hours of sword strikes. Hundreds of sword strikes were so fast and fierce that it was beyond Chen Hao's imagination. But Chen Hao's attack also shocked Lung Yihan to the core. Chen Hao's speed was far inferior to his, and it was not even a third of his speed. However, his sword moves were skillful and skillful. There was no defense, only attack. Moreover, every move was aimed at his flaws and places that he had to save, and he occupied the initiative in every aspect. It made Lung Yihan feel that every attack he made was completely predicted by Chen Hao, and his speed advantage was completely nullified. The saying that speed was unbeatable in the same realm had been overturned by Chen Hao. Everyone stared at the arena, their expressions full of shock, especially those who had fought Chen Hao to a draw. They were even more terrified. Not to mention that their divine beast inheritances had been destroyed. Even if they still had them, they knew that it would not be difficult for either Chen Hao or Lung Yihan to kill them. To be exact, it would be a piece of cake. The sword glows and the pressure that seeped out from the arena allowed them to clearly understand that if it was them, they would not be able to block such an attack at all. This was simply a battle of energy realm. If this goes on, I will definitely lose. Under Chen Hao's fierce attacks, Lung Yihan thought to himself. He is fighting like he doesn't care about his life. He only attacks and doesn't defend. If I don't save myself, I will be killed by him. He is only seriously injured. If I avoid the battle, it will be a draw at most. Lung Yihan believed that with his space attribute true essence, if he really chose to defend and wander around the martial arts practice field, Chen Hao would not be able to do anything to him. He did not need to constantly travel through space. The martial arts practice field, which was close to 1,000 feet wide, was enough for him to hide from Chen Hao. However, being chased by Chen Hao like a mouse was not Lung Yihan's style. It seems that I can only rely on external forces. Lung Yihan's eyes suddenly flashed with determination. He was arrogant and had never used external forces when facing opponents of the same level or even higher level. He had always relied on his own strength to fight. But now, because of Chen Hao's martial sage realm cultivation and powerful combat strength, Lung Yihan, who could not afford to lose, had no choice but to rely on external forces. Ding ding ding. Boom boom boom. Bam. Along with the dense and terrifying sword cries, Lung Yihan's body suddenly flashed with a pitch-black light. A terrifying aura instantly filled the air. The black light even covered the sky and the sun. In an instant, the entire arena was plunged into a temporary darkness. Boom boom boom. Boom. Boom boom. With an explosion, the bright sword light once again broke through the darkness. Chen Hao and Lung Yihan's bodies suddenly rolled back and separated. You lost. Chen Hao, who had spat out 3 arrows of blood, stabilized himself after rolling back a few hundred feet. He stared in Lung Yihan's direction and said. However, before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly stopped. He frowned and looked at Lung Yihan, who had stabilized himself before him. How is this possible? Chen Hao was shocked. The moment darkness fell, Chen Hao could clearly feel that Lung Yihan did not defend himself under his fierce attacks. Instead, he did not change his sword stance and stabbed him 3 times. Of course, Chen Hao would not change his sword stance to save himself. He had originally used the solitary sword technique, which did not have any moves. Furthermore, he had used a barbaric fighting style that could kill 1,000 enemies but hurt 800 of his own to restrain Lung Yihan's terrifying speed. How could he save himself? Lung Yihan's 3 sword strikes were not fatal. But his sword strike was fatal. However, Chen Hao did not intend to kill Lung Yihan, so he moved slightly away. He believed that Lung Yihan knew that he had been merciful. It was also because of this that Chen Hao said that he had lost after he stopped. But what shocked Chen Hao was that at this moment, Lung Yihan was standing in the air. His white robe had disappeared, and he was wearing a set of soft armor that emitted a dark light. Mysterious golden runes covered the black soft armor, exuding an incomparably powerful aura. How could there be any injury to his heart? Chen Hao, you hid the fact that you had become a martial saint, so I used the black iron battle armor. Isn't that fair? Your fighting style obviously won't work for the next attack. My black iron battle armor not only has a powerful array, but it also has the ability to condense the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. In other words, my energy consumption will be next to nothing. Therefore, this. Lung Yihan's lips curled up slightly with a smile as he spoke. The moment he spoke, his entire person disappeared. Perhaps it was because Lung Yihan still felt a little embarrassed in his heart, but his tone of voice became a little strange. When he smiled, a small dimple uncontrollably appeared on his handsome but feminine face. Others might not have noticed, but Chen Hao's attention was focused on Lung Yihan. When he disappeared, Lung Yihan's expression, appearance, and aura all appeared clearly in his mind. Those small dimples made the originally feminine face give Chen Hao a charming feeling. Coupled with the way Lung Yihan looked at Chen Hao, even Chen Hao, who was in the middle of battle, couldn't help but shudder. This guy can't be homosexual, right? The bright and sharp sword light interrupted Chen Hao's goosebumps. With a loud shout, he waved his sword and retreated. Ding! Rumble! Lung Yihan, who was wearing the black iron battle armor, was like a shadow. His fierce attacks became much bolder and more powerful. This increased the pressure on Chen Hao by several times. Almost in an instant, the two were once again in a frenzied battle. However, unlike last time, Chen Hao could no longer suppress Lung Yihan like before. Instead, he was suppressed in every way. In just a few breaths, blood splattered all over Chen Hao's body. Lung Yihan's sword moves were 3 times faster than his, and he didn't need to defend himself. He immediately displayed a terrifying combat strength. Chen Hao's expression became extremely serious. Chen Hao, admit defeat. If this continues, you won't be able to hold on for long. Lung Yihan, who had the absolute advantage, said as he looked at Chen Hao, who had numerous wounds on his body. He was very clear about Chen Hao's abnormal recovery ability. Therefore, he didn't hold back at all. Moreover, he still couldn't assassinate Chen Hao's vital points. "I, Chen Hao, dare to fight, and I will never admit defeat." Hiss. What shocked Leng Yihan was that when Chen Hao's cold voice rang out, he actually merged with everything in the world right in front of him. Wasn't this courting death? It's fine if it's someone else, but I'm Leng Yihan. My realm of merging with everything in the world is much higher than yours. If you want to defeat me so desperately, I won't give it to you. Open for me. This. Leng Yihan shouted, and the sword light suddenly pierced into the void. Ding. Boom. What shocked everyone was that Chen Hao and Leng Yihan were sent flying once again. What shocked Leng Yihan even more was that Chen Hao, who had merged with everything in the world, suddenly changed his form the moment his sword pierced through. His body twisted strangely, and he forcibly avoided a vital point attack. There was also a pure and terrifying energy that blocked his sword. At the same time, Chen Hao's golden sword pierced through his black iron battle armor. Unfortunately, Chen Hao failed to comprehend the profundities of the profound heavenly battle armor in that split second of time. This terrifying showdown caused everyone to be shaken to the core. And this was under the circumstance that they didn't understand the real battle. If they knew that the two of them had merged with everything in the world in such a short moment and were in such a dangerous situation, their eyeballs would probably fall to the ground from shock. This black iron battle armor, could it be condensed by the nameless old man? Chen Hao, who had been sent flying, was extremely shocked. His desperate attack had definitely taken a huge risk, and it had exposed his identity as a dual cultivator to Leng Yihan. This was because what blocked Leng Yihan's sword was pure mental energy. Mental energy that had no effect on the physical state of the body. But the moment the golden sword touched the black iron battle armor, Chen Hao found that the black iron battle armor's trajectory was completely unpredictable. How could he find it in an instant? With this black iron battle armor, he's practically invincible. It also has the ability to condense the spiritual energy of the world. If I continue to waste my energy, won't I be exhausted by him? This guy must be gay. Two conditions are already incredible. If he turns them into four, won't I be disgusted to death? Absolutely not. I can't lose. At least I have to break even. And today it will explode. Begging for monthly votes. Chapter 196. Second update. There are still 2 chapters left at night. There is still a little more time left in the last day. I sincerely ask those of you who still have monthly votes to vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. He's actually stabilizing himself. Leng Yihan stared in shock at Chen Hao, whose expression was flickering. Spiritual power, pure spiritual power. In order to merge with all things in the world, one needed to restrain one's physical strength. Any strand of energy that was scattered in one's meridians, bones, muscles, and so on had to be retracted into one's dantian. Otherwise, one would not be able to merge. However, Chen Hao, who had merged with all things in the world, was still able to release energy to block his attack. What did this mean? Only the spiritual power that was detached from the physical body and attached to the mind alone could do it. Dual cultivation. No wonder his energy is so terrifying. Leng Yihan bit his thin lips. 2 sharp sword intents flashed in his eyes. With a hiss, he disappeared before everyone's eyes. With the profound iron battle armor, I want to see what you can do to me if I launch a sneak attack. I must win. When the will is there, the chi is there. When the chi is there, 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 the chi is there. Under the immense pressure, Chen Hao's mind became clear as he immersed himself in the profoundness of the ultimate martial arts. To everyone's surprise, Chen Hao and Leng Yihan were once again facing each other. One stood motionless while the other hid in the void. At first, they were only surprised, but after a moment, looking at Chen Hao on the stage, everyone's eyes widened in shock. The entire martial arts practice field could no longer maintain its calm. What is Chen Hao doing? Countless people asked in surprise. No one understood what Chen Hao wanted to do. Even the elders on the rostrum were unable to understand. They all frowned and fell into deep thought. In the arena, Chen Hao stood in the middle, and the protective aura that covered his entire body actually slowly disappeared. Even his aura could no longer be sensed any trace of energy fluctuation. What was even more shocking was, he slowly closed his eyes. His appearance and expression seemed as if he'd been immersed in a state of sudden enlightenment. But this was a battle, a competition. Lung Yihan, who was wearing the black iron battle armor, had his mind melded into the world after a short time. He was silent, colorless, and formless, like a poisonous snake hiding in the night. In a short minute he suddenly appeared 3 meters behind Chen Hao. The dazzling and sharp sword aura was like a venomous snake spitting out its tongue. It was as fast as lightning as it pierced towards the back of Chen Hao's heart. It wouldn't endanger Chen Hao's life, but if it did, it would mean that Chen Hao had failed. Just like when Chen Hao attacked Lung Yihan, neither of them intended to take the other's life. As long as the winner was decided, that was enough. Who could dodge such a fierce attack at such a close distance? Before anyone could cry out in alarm, Chen Hao had already moved. His body trembled strangely. Suddenly, a wave of pure energy condensed in front of him. The moment the tip of Lung Yihan's sword was about to reach him, he actually blocked it. His body was like a willow in the wind, drifting away. At the same time, the sword aura in his hand buzzed and fiercely attacked Lung Yihan, who had appeared like a ghost. Ding! Boom! The two figures suddenly separated. Lung Yihan disappeared again, and Chen Hao's eyes were still closed, returning to his motionless state. Other than the experts in the martial god realm and above, no one saw the exchange between the two clearly. Only the terrifying sound of the explosion made everyone understand. In that split second, the two of them had completed a surprise attack, defense, counterattack, and block. After a short silence, the sword aura appeared again, but it was no different from the first time. The two seemed to be in a stalemate. No one could do anything to the other. This made Lung Yihan grit his teeth. He really couldn't understand how Chen Hao's reaction speed was so fast. If he had known, he would have activated the dark iron battle armor from the beginning and attacked with everything in the world. With the first sword, Chen Hao's reaction speed would have been enough to defeat him. But it was too late now. Chen Hao seemed to have comprehended something in the process of the battle. It made his reaction speed and perception much sharper. Chen Hao. After a full hour, Lung Yihan finally couldn't take it anymore. You can't do anything to me, and I can't do anything to you. Let's call it a draw. Okay. Chen Hao slowly opened his eyes, and the mysterious aura on his body instantly disappeared as he said straightforwardly. If this dragged on, it would be difficult to determine the winner. Chen Hao used very little energy in this state and recovered quickly. And Lung Yihan had the dark iron battle armor, so he didn't use much energy either. As the two's battle drew to a close, the 100 Empire ranking competition had officially ended. The huge black tower steel once again shone with a bright golden light and appeared in the center of the main arena. All the names of the 100 Empire ranking contestants shone with a bright light. From bottom to top, they were fixed one by one. Lung Yihan was first with the highest number of points. Chen Hao was second, and Tantai Lian was ninth. The top 20 contestants all received great rewards from the Myriad Treasures Chamber of Commerce. Lung Yihan, who was first, received 1 million level 8 spirit pills. Chen Hao, who had become a pauper, received 800,000 pills. The third place received 600,000 pills. The 4th to 10th place received 500,000 pills each. The 10th to 20th place received 300,000 pills each. After the award ceremony, it was finally the most crucial moment for the 100 Empire ranking contestants, the selection of the sect. Whoosh, whoosh. Following the words of Lu Wuxiang, the manager of the Myriad Treasures Chamber of Commerce, more than 3,000 disciples of the 100 Empire ranking rose into the air and landed on the huge main arena according to their respective rankings and areas. The 50 sect elders on the rostrum also stepped on auspicious clouds and released their auras as they arrived on the main arena. The 3 elders of the 7th grade sects stood in the middle with smiles on their faces. They stared at Lung Yihan, Chen Hao, and the other top 20 contestants. Obviously, in their opinion, these top 20 contestants would be divided among them. The others were fine, especially Leng Yihan and Chen Hao. Even the three of them would have to compete. The myriad Pill Pavilion elders, who were treated the best, were undoubtedly the most confident. Everyone, according to the rules of the 100 Empire ranking, the 50 sects will take turns to select disciples from the top to the bottom. 10 will be selected each time, and only one of the top 50 can be selected. As for the other 9, you can choose at will. If the chosen disciple has a sect that he likes, he can refuse. Okay, now the 7th grade sect, the Myriad Pill Pavilion, will choose first. After everyone was in place, Lu Wuxiang's majestic voice sounded. Ha! As soon as Lu Wuxiang finished speaking, the elder of the Myriad Pill Pavilion chuckled with a touch of arrogance on his face. He looked from Leng Yihan and Chen Hao to the entire martial arts practice field and said, I am Lu Xiang, the great elder of the Myriad Pill Pavilion's outer sect. I think everyone should know about our Myriad Pill Pavilion. Although we are a 7th grade sect, in reality, the treatment of our disciples is not worse than that of 8th grade or 9th grade sections. Our Myriad Pill Pavilion only wants 50 disciples this time. The ranking is not very important. What is important is talent. So, disciples who are confident can wait for me to choose. The top 20 are not bad, and there are a few in the top 100 who are not bad, huh? As the elder of the Myriad Pill Pavilion laughed, his eyes quickly scanned all the disciples. He gave a clear look to those he liked. Especially when he looked at Chen Hao and Leng Yihan, his eyes were burning. Such an obvious hint made the elders of the other sects look ugly, but there was nothing they could do. Anyone who went up would do the same. Choose one of the top 50. Leng Yihan and Chen Hao are not bad. Old man likes them very much. After the two of you enter our Myriad Pill Pavilion, Old man can guarantee that you will be treated the same, and you will become the focus of the outer sect disciples. But this time, you can only choose one. Old man will choose according to the ranking. Leng Yihan will be first. Leng Yihan, come over first. Elder Lu Xiang smiled and looked at Leng Yihan and the other two. This was obviously an explanation for Chen Hao. The meaning was to let Chen Hao not think too much. He was as important as Leng Yihan. It was just that he could only choose one at a time. There was no other way. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Leng Yihan's face. Countless people were incomparably envious. A 7th grade sect, the Myriad Pill Pavilion, and to become the focus of the training. These conditions were definitely very tempting. Perhaps only the top 10 disciples could make Lu Xiang make such a promise. If the chosen disciple agreed, he would have to walk out of the camp and stand behind the sect elder. Leng Yihan smiled slightly and said, Thank you, Elder Lu, for your kindness. After that, he turned his head and looked at Chen Hao meaningfully. His figure flashed and he went behind Lu Xiang. Leng Yihan was obviously more than happy to join the Myriad Pill Pavilion. Although he did not care much about the sect's grade, it was necessary to receive good sect benefits after entering. The Myriad Pill Pavilion was rich and was naturally the best choice. As for the secret arts, he did not care. He had the Tao imparted to him by his master. Chen Hao shuddered and avoided Leng Yihan's gaze that invited him to join the Myriad Pill Pavilion. This made Leng Yihan frown slightly. Could it be that this guy had a problem with him after the draw? Or was he dissatisfied with him using the black iron armor? Then, Lu Xiang called out 3 names out of the top 50 and did not choose any more. The disciples who were called out were naturally flattered. One had to know that Lu Xiang had said that he would only choose 50 people this time. With their rankings, they were naturally excited to be chosen. They all stood behind Lu Xiang like Leng Yihan. Then, it was time to choose from the 7th grade sect, Celestial Peak sect. This elder, like Lu Xiang, first talked about how good Celestial Peak sect was, then clearly pointed out the disciples he liked. Then he looked at Chen Hao with a burning gaze and said, Chen Hao, your talent is very suitable for our Celestial Peak sect's secret arts. As long as you join our Celestial Peak sect, Old Man can guarantee that you will be treated as an inner disciple. Moreover, with the protection of our sect, I believe that no matter who wants to deal with you, you will be safe. Second update. Monthly vote. There are 2 more updates tonight. Please. Chapter 197. The elder's words made the eyes of all the disciples on the 100 Empire ranking shine. The countless spectators in the martial arts practice field exclaimed in surprise. What did it mean to become an inner disciple? Although the celestial sect was not as rich as the myriad pill pavilion, it was still a 7th grade sect. The treatment of its inner disciples was much better than the outer disciples of the myriad pill pavilion. It should be known that the so-called inner disciples could only be promoted to inner disciples after breaking through the innate realm and reaching the golden core realm. Lu Xiang looked at the elder of the celestial sect with an embarrassed expression. He did not expect the other party to offer such exaggerated conditions. Then he looked at Chen Hao with a little worry. Thank you for your kindness, Elder Zhu. I'm sorry, but I already have a sect I like. Chen Hao bowed and cupped his fists with an apologetic expression. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Lu Xiang smiled with relief. Leng Yihan also curled his lips slightly. Obviously, except for Tantai Lien and the others, everyone thought that Chen Hao had his eyes on the myriad pill pavilion. According to the selection rules between sects and disciples, Chen Hao could not go in advance before the star-picking sect made their choice. This was also to protect the interests of many sections. What's more, during the star-seizing sect selection, Chen Hao was going to be in the top 50. The elder of the celestial sect looked very embarrassed, but he did not say anything. He then chose Yu Qiyu of the White Tiger inheritance. Yu Qiyu walked over. Then, the elder of the celestial sect chose 4 disciples from the top 50. He did not choose again. Next was the 7th grade Nirvana Valley. After the 7th grade sect, there were 5 6th grade sects. They all offered very generous conditions to the contestants in the top 10. Tantai Lien was also approached by a few sects, but as expected, they were all rejected by her. This was within everyone's expectations. She shared the Phoenix inheritance with Chen Hao. There was no doubt that she would be in the same sect as Chen Hao. In everyone's opinion, this also meant that 3 of the top 10 were destined to be obtained by the myriad pill pavilion. The 8 immortals crossed the sea, each showing his own ability. Although the previous 7th grade and 6th grade sects were the same as the myriad pill pavilion and expressed their preference for disciples, except for Chen Hao and Tantai Lien, as long as the top 20 disciples were the first to be chosen, very few would disagree. There were still many people who would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Moreover, the grade of the sect was indeed not the most important thing. However, there were exceptions. Yang Fan, who was outside the top 50, was one of the most outstanding. Since he had comprehended the true essence of the wind attribute, he was very popular. He had been called upon many times, but without exception he had rejected all of them, including those from rank 6 sections. When one reached the 5th rank, the situation was similar to that of the 6th rank. However, when it came to the 4th rank sects, it would be difficult to pick a disciple from the top 50. The chances of being rejected would also increase. As for the rank 4 sects, the first choice was basically all rejected. You can only choose 10 people after the top 50. But even so, there were still quite a number of people at the top of the rankings who refused. Finally, it was the rank 3 sect. The star-picking sect was the strongest among the rank 3 sects and was the first to appear. The outer sect's Grand Elder, Elder Wu, had already learned of Chen Hao and the others' choices from Dong Fong Ting. Therefore, from the moment the old man began to make his choice, his old face was beaming with joy. Chen Hao, I choose you for the first one. We are only a rank 3 sect, but old man can guarantee that we will treat you like a treasure. To everyone's surprise, the elder of the 3rd rank sect looked directly at Chen Hao and said, You're not going to waste any more time on him. The elder of the 4th rank sect didn't waste any more time on Chen Hao. There was no substantive promise. He only said that he would treat him like a treasure. What did that mean? What was considered a treasure? It was too much of a bluff. In everyone's opinion, there was something wrong with the old man's head. However, what made everyone dumbfounded was that Chen Hao actually smiled and nodded. His figure flashed and he appeared behind Elder Wu. Lu Xiang of the Myriad Pill Pavilion was originally looking at the overconfident Elder Wu with a mocking gaze, but now he was completely stunned. Leng Yihan also frowned at Chen Hao. Clearly, he had not expected Chen Hao to make such a choice. Elder Wu's face was flushed, as if he had never felt so good before. After looking at Tan Tai Lian and nodding slightly, he ignored everyone's shock and chose Yang Fan first, then Enai Jianpain second, and Li Feng third. Tan Tai Lian could only be kept for the next round. There was no other way. Tan Tai Lian was ranked 8th and belonged to the top 50. Then, after a long time, another 6 were chosen, making a total of 10 people. Round after round continued, and the later it got, the faster it got. Before the sky turned dark, all the disciples on the 100 Empire ranking finally had their respective destinations. Chen Hao, don't forget my 2 conditions. When the 50 elders were about to leave with their chosen disciples, Leng Yihan stared at Chen Hao and transmitted his voice. I won't. What are the conditions? I haven't thought about it yet. Let's talk about it later. Let's settle down first. After a while, I'll go find Master. I'll look for you then. Up to you, Chen Hao said. Elder Wu, Dongfang Ting, and the low-level disciples of the Jiaxing sect who were participating in the Shenwu relic trial, along with Chen Hao and the other new disciples of the 100 Empire ranking, began to teleport through the enormous transmission formation of the 1,000 Treasures Chamber of Commerce. In less than an hour, they entered the city closest to the Jiaxing sect. This city is called Star City. It's only 40,000 miles away from the Star-Picking sect. It's also one of the cities under the jurisdiction of the Star-Picking sect. After coming out of the teleportation array of the Myriad Treasure Chamber of Commerce's branch, Elder Wu, who was flying in the air, said to the new disciples. Gazing at the huge city below them and the endless mountain peaks in the distance, many of the disciples on the 100 Empire ranking had a trace of excitement in their eyes. After walking all the way from the dynasty to today, they were finally going to start their real life in the cultivation world. Even Chen Hao was a little excited. Senior brother Chen Hao, we'll be brothers in the same sect from now on. Please take care of me in the future. I'm Bai Shuang, a low-level disciple of the outer sect. While everyone was flying quickly toward the star-picking sect, some disciples greeted Chen Hao and the other new disciples. Of course, most of them greeted Chen Hao. He was the runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking and a super genius who had tied with the champion. Everyone could imagine what kind of status Chen Hao would have after entering the star-picking sect. Moreover, with Chen Hao's talent, his future achievements would be incomparable to theirs. Chen Hao was neither warm nor cold. He responded indifferently to the disciples who came over to curry favor. The only thing that made Chen Hao depressed and Tan Tai Lian blushed was that almost everyone who came over to greet them would cup their fists and nod to Tan Tai Lian. It was clear that they treated Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lian as Dao companions. After 2 hours, they had traveled 40,000 miles in a flash. The mountain peaks pierced through the sky, extremely tall. Compared to the Shao clan's back mountain, Tianlu Mountain, they were many times taller. They were as straight as swords and abnormally steep. Strange flowers and herbs covered the peaks, and many palaces stood among them. White clouds floated at the foot of the mountain. The sky was blue and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was extremely abundant. This is our star-picking sect. Every mountain is more than 10,000 feet tall. There are 3,600 mountains in a radius of hundreds of miles. There are 36 main mountains, and they are nearly 30,000 feet tall. This is also the origin of our star-picking sect's name. As everyone gradually approached, numerous waterfalls, icy jade-colored lakes, mountain streams, waterside pavilions, towering old trees, and strange flowers and plants appeared successively before their eyes, causing Chen Hao and the others to be extremely shocked in their hearts. Especially the vast, powerful, and profound aura that enveloped an area of almost 500 kilometers was far from something any sacred grounds in the mortal world could compare to. The world of cultivation is indeed the world of cultivation. How can the secular world compare to such a unique cultivation environment? The blessed paradises of the secular world are practically everywhere in this world, with blessed paradises everywhere. Yes, our star-picking sect is only a third-grade sect. What are those 6th grade and 7th grade sects like? Some of the disciples on the 100 Empire ranking whispered in shock. As they approached the first towering peak, several streaks of flowing light on auspicious clouds shuttled through like lightning. The leader was actually riding a strange bird that was several feet long. This strange bird's feathers were sparkling and translucent, like sharp knives lined up side by side. The top of its head was golden, and its claws were like hooks, emitting a metallic luster. Elder Wu, welcome back. I heard that this time the 100 Empire ranking got a super genius who tied with the champion? A young disciple was sitting on the strange bird. He rushed to the front of the crowd and scanned the new disciples on the 100 Empire ranking with lightning speed. He quickly locked onto Chen Hao, who was beside Dongfang Ting, and asked, "It's you, right?" "Yes, this is Chen Hao." Elder Wu smiled and said, "Has everything been arranged?" "Yes, it has been arranged. These are their tokens," the young man said. At the same time, 58 tokens floated to Elder Wu. When Chen Hao and the others stepped into the Jiaxing sect to officially report, in the Xuanwu Imperial Palace, the Emperor of the Xuanwu Empire, Mu Qing, and the leaders of the kingdoms and forces that Chen Hao and the others belonged to, who had been waiting in the depths of the palace for more than 10 days, finally looked excitedly at the huge teleportation formation. Rays of mysterious light flashed out, and a figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. "Greetings, Immortal Ho." The Emperor of the Xuanwu Empire, Mu Qing, and the others immediately bowed to the old man who appeared. "Congratulations, your Xuanwu Empire has done very well in the 100 Empire ranking this time." Hua. Hearing the words of the messenger from the Cultivation World's Wanjin Chamber of Commerce, everyone present was pleasantly surprised. "Immortal Ho, what's the situation? Did you enter a high-level sect?" Xian Congfeng, the Emperor of the Xuanwu Empire, asked impatiently. "Sigh." The old man sighed and shook his head. Everyone's excitement from hearing the old man say that the results were very good immediately changed. "Your Xuanwu Empire has a super genius, Chen Hao." "Unfortunately, what happened to Chen Hao?" Zhao Xingchen, who had arrived early, asked in a panic. "He was the runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking and tied with the champion." "What?" Hearing the old man's words, everyone's eyes widened in shock. They could not believe what they had heard. Third update. Requesting monthly votes. At the crucial moment, Wushan is going to drop the ball. The fourth update was promised, but it can't be fulfilled. I just received a call from my cousin and sister-in-law in my hometown. They said that they are sending their niece to school and have been in Lijiang for a few days. They just arrived in Kunming and are about to arrive at Wushan. I definitely won't be able to write later. My cousin is an alcoholic. He's over 40 years old and has to drink a glass of tempered white wine for breakfast. I probably won't be able to escape later. At this crucial moment, Wushan is also very helpless, but there's no other way. They came all the way to Kunming, so I have to accompany them. Chapter 198. We're about to be destroyed. We've persisted for 30 days. This is the last day. Can't we persist? Dark Mountain continues to write. Everyone, please persist and see if there are any monthly votes left. After today, they'll be useless. Vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. It's a pity that he rejected a 7th-rank sect and chose the 3rd-rank sect, the Jiaxing sect. As for the other 4, Tantai Lian is ranked 9th. She received the Phoenix's inheritance with Chen Hao, which is also very good. It's a pity that Tantai Lian followed Chen Hao and chose the Jiaxing sect. Yang Fan is ranked 68th. Ni Jianpain and Li Feng are also ranked in the top 200. They all chose the Jiaxing sect. The old man continued to speak about everyone's situation in one breath, causing Xian Congfeng, Mu Qing, Zhao Xingchen, and the important people of the Dashing Kingdom to be dumbfounded. The Phoenix's inheritance, shocking rankings, strange choices, every single one of them was like a huge hammer knocking on everyone's heads. However, you don't have to worry too much. The rank of a sect isn't very important. Since they chose the Jiaxing sect, they naturally have their reasons. A true genius will shine in any sect. This Chen Hao is a rare genius on the 100 Empire ranking. As long as nothing unexpected happens, he will definitely bring great glory to the Xuanwu Kingdom. Many thanks, Spiritual Master Ho, Xian Zongfeng and the others said respectfully. Within a day, the news of Chen Hao being the runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking, fighting to a draw with the champion, and receiving the Phoenix's inheritance was sent back to the Jinyuan Kingdom by Zhao Xingchen at the fastest speed. The Dashing Kingdom that Tan Tai Lian belonged to was no exception. The Xuanwu Kingdom and the other two kingdoms were in a state of celebration and rewards. Especially the Xiao family that Chen Hao belonged to. Not only did they receive the full support of the Jinyuan Kingdom, they were also personally rewarded by the Emperor of the Xuanwu Kingdom, Xian Zongfeng. The Phoenix's inheritance. In the royal New Show Hall of the Jinyuan Kingdom, a graceful figure stood in a separate courtyard and stared at the night sky as she murmured. The cold moonlight poured down on her body, causing her beautiful face to become as cold as the moon. However, at this moment, the girl bit her lips and frowned. Her delicate body trembled. Almost 10 months. Only 10 months. However, he had already become a martial sage and had obtained the Phoenix's inheritance together with that woman called Tan Tai Lian. What about himself? Helian Wuzi, who had madly cultivated for 10 months, could no longer remain calm after receiving Chen Hao's news. He didn't blame Chen Hao. He only blamed himself for being too slow. Even though she had become the head disciple of the Royal New Show Hall, even though she was a rank 9 martial emperor, there was still nearly a year before the rookie rankings would begin. How much could she improve? Unknowingly, a faint sense of bewilderment appeared in her heart, and it began to become chaotic. She bit her lips until they bled, but she didn't feel it at all. After an unknown amount of time, Helian Wuzi's pair of eyes gradually became ice-cold and persistent. With a clang, she took out the moonlight sword and violently released one terrifying attack after another. Rumble! The terrifying sword light directly destroyed countless trees and pavilions in the small courtyard. After a terrifying chasm appeared on the ground, Helian Wuzi soared into the air and left the Royal New Show Hall in the blink of an eye. So what if it was the Phoenix inheritance? That was opportunity, that was luck, that was the choice of the heavens. As long as it wasn't the world of cultivation. In next year's new talent competition, the 100 Empire ranking, she would definitely enter the world of cultivation. Furthermore, she would enter the world of cultivation with results that were not inferior to his. Phoenix inheritance. In the world of cultivation, celestial mists curled up. In a palace that resembled a paradise, a figure stood within the clouds. Her eyebrows were long and dark. Her gaze was clear and her figure was graceful. She was like a fairy from a painting, especially those eyes. They were as clear as a lake. As her gaze moved, it sparkled and there were layers upon layers of ripples. Star-picking sect. He's not participating in the dragon transformation rankings? The young girl muttered. Even though she had been grounded after sneaking out of the sect and had not left the mountain even now, she had been paying attention to the news regarding the 100 Empire ranking and had her maids inquire about it. After receiving the news that Chen Hao had obtained second place on the 100 Empire ranking and had tied with the champion, she was naturally happy for Chen Hao. However, the Phoenix inheritance made her frown. Although she was naive, she understood the Phoenix inheritance. Although she did not know what her relationship with Chen Hao was, she still felt that Chen Hao had such an intimate relationship with another woman. Ultimately, she felt that someone had stolen something from her. Furthermore, Chen Hao had given up on the dragon transformation rankings and chosen the star-picking sect, which was only a third-grade sect. This made her feel even more wronged. Star-picking sect. Chen Hao and the other new disciples were divided into 10 groups and brought to the 10 mountain peaks where the outer sect disciples resided and cultivated. Chen Hao, Tan Tai Lian, Yang Fan, and I Jian Pain, and Li Feng were naturally in one group. Furthermore, it was the main peak where the star-picking sect's outer sect disciples focused on nurturing. Chen Hao, you and Tan Tai Lian will be in the same courtyard. Is that okay? Elder Wu and Dongfang Ting asked after personally bringing Chen Hao and the other 4 to the main peak of the outer sect. No. Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lian said in unison. Although we both received the inheritance of the phoenix at the same time, this inheritance is not what you think it is. It seems to have mutated. Little Lian and I are only friends. Chen Hao explained after frowning slightly. If he did not explain now, it seemed that the two of them would have to live together. How could Chen Hao accept this? Of course, Tan Tai Lian could not accept it either. Oh? There's such a thing? That means, the two of you haven't? Very well, if that's the case, once the two of you start dual cultivation, your improvement will be even more shocking. No wonder you could execute the phoenix's nirvana on your own. Elder Wu said with a hint of excitement. It was not uncommon for divine beasts to mutate after receiving inheritances. Furthermore, once a divine beast mutated, it meant that its abilities would become even more terrifying. Seeing the awkward expressions on Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lian's faces, Elder Wu did not continue speaking. He directly arranged individual courtyards for the 5 of them. The 5 of you can rest first. The 5 of you, especially Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lian, will definitely receive special rewards from the sect. Now, you will be treated as the focus of the outer sect disciples' training. Everything, including the sect's introduction and regulations, has been placed in your rooms. Familiarize yourselves with the Jiaxing sect. If you need anything, you can find me at my mountain peak. Dong Fangting said to Chen Hao and the rest as she bid them farewell. The so-called courtyards were actually huge palaces. Each of them occupied one. After Chen Hao stepped into the palace, he saw his sect's items in the hall. There were 2 sets of white Taoist robes and a treasured sword that exuded an ancient aura. The Taoist robes were inlaid with thin golden threads. There was a seal on the chest that represented the Jiaxing sect's disciple insignia. Just by feeling, Chen Hao knew that the Taoist robes were not ordinary clothes. They were Taoist robes that contained countless runes and magical uses. The treasured sword was ordinary, but it was still an inferior-grade spirit weapon. It should be something that every disciple in the sect had. Apart from the Taoist robes and the treasured sword, there were also a few books made of unknown materials. There were detailed introductions to the sect, basic techniques for the Jiaxing sect below the Khanate stage, and sect regulations. The Jiaxing Taoist robe is made of hundreds of types of spirit silk. It contains 36 types of runes. It dispels all poisons, dispels miasma, is impervious to fire and water, and is invulnerable to ordinary weapons. Chen Hao picked up the manual beside the Taoist robes and read softly, "The world of cultivation is indeed extraordinary. Just this Taoist robe alone is a priceless treasure in the secular world." Chen Hao took out the treasured sword and examined it. It was indeed an inferior-grade spirit weapon that was of no use to him. However, it was a must-have weapon for Jiaxing sect disciples. He casually put it away in the Xianhuang bracelet. Chen Hao quickly looked through all the items and picked up a thick book. This was the first book that all disciples who had entered the world of cultivation had to read, The Essentials of the Eastern Continent. Flipping through the catalog, there were hundreds of pages and thousands of catalogs. This caused Chen Hao's mind to be greatly moved, and his eyes shone with an excited light. The boundless continent is vast and boundless. It was impossible for this book to cover all the details. It's a must-read for disciples who have just entered the world of cultivation. It's a compilation of generations of experts from the Jiaxing sect. It's a must-have in the world of cultivation. When Chen Hao read the opening paragraph, he knew that this was a basic lesson that disciples of the Jiaxing sect had to familiarize themselves with after entering the world of cultivation. It was also a guidebook for the world of cultivation. Among the tens of thousands of sects, there were righteous and evil. The righteous path was called the immortal path, while the evil path was called the demon path. Apart from the immortal path and the demon path, there were also the demon path. The introductions to these sects and factions were extremely detailed, including their ultimate techniques, powerful treasures, top experts, genius disciples, branch locations, and so on. There were also introductions to many powerful itinerant cultivators and demons. Apart from that, there was also information on the super dynasties of the entire Eastern Continent's cultivation world, merchant guilds, perilous lands, legendary paradises, mysterious realms, precious mines, spirit herbs, and so on. There was nothing that was lacking. It took an entire day for Chen Hao to completely imprint the thick book of information into his mind. Phew! What an exciting world! Strange and variegated. So this is it? Chen Hao muttered to himself. As he spoke, he picked up the other's secret manuals and walked to the cultivation room. In the cultivation room, there was a huge round mattress formed by a frost jade ice bed. It was surrounded by formations and runes, causing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to be extremely dense. As a disciple of the star-picking sect, I naturally have to cultivate the star-picking sect's martial arts. Chen Hao's figure flashed and he sat cross-legged on the cold jade ice bed. Wisps of cool air immediately entered his body from the ice bed and cleared his mind. There were a total of 4 secret manuals. The ultimate technique, condensing essence technique. The ultimate technique, star-shaking fist. The soaring cloud steps. And the flowing cloud sword technique. Star-shaking fist. This should be the complete star-shaking fist, right? Chen Hao said with a smile as he picked up the star-shaking fist manual written in immortal characters. Obviously, the incomplete version of the star-shaking fist in the Royal New Show Hall of the Jinyuan Kingdom must have come from Dongfang Ting and been sent back to the Jinyuan Kingdom. These were all Xiantian martial arts techniques that surpassed the level of the Jiaxing sect. Although they were only the basic martial arts of the Jiaxing sect, Chen Hao was still looking forward to learning them. After all, although his ultimate martial arts techniques were powerful, they still required the support of this world's energy techniques in order to unleash their full power. Before he entered the Golden Elixir stage, he needed these martial arts techniques very much. Soon, Chen Hao had grasped the star-shaking fist and began to study and cultivate it. First update. Please vote for me. Chapter 199. Dong Dong Dong. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Chen Hao, who was immersed in cultivation, suddenly heard a hurried knocking sound from the door of the palace. He hurriedly calmed his mind and walked out of the cultivation room that was not closed in the first place. Senior sister? Is the reward here? After seeing Dongfang Ting, Chen Hao smiled and said, "It's here." Elder Wu reported to the sect leader. The sect leader is very impressed with your talent. The reward was beyond senior sister's imagination. However, is there a condition? Chen Hao asked directly. The Jiaxing sect has close to 10,000 outer disciples. Among them, there are 7,000 low-level disciples, 2,000 mid-level disciples, and 1,000 high-level disciples. You should already know the details of the sect, right? Dongfang Ting asked Chen Hao as she looked at him. I do, Chen Hao said. The so-called low-level outer disciples were at the martial ancestor realm, mid-level disciples were at the martial sage realm, and high-level disciples were at the martial god realm. After surpassing the god realm, one could become an inner disciple. Every year, among the low-level, mid-level, and high-level outer disciples, there are 10 who are qualified to enter the first, second, and third levels of the 7-star grotto heaven to cultivate for 3 months. These disciples are all elites of their respective realms. The competition for this spot is very intense. This time, the sect leader's reward for you is to enter the 7-star grotto heaven to cultivate. You can choose the first level directly. No one in the martial ancestor realm can defeat you. It shouldn't be a big problem. If you want to enter the second level, it will depend on you. It will open in 3 months. You have 3 months to make a decision. Chen Hao looked slightly excited. He had already understood the 7-star grotto heaven from the sect's detailed introduction. It was as Dongfang Ting had said. Only the truly gifted geniuses among the outer court disciples were qualified to enter. Not only was the energy of heaven and earth extremely dense, but it also contained extremely powerful laws of heaven and earth. Although it was only for 3 months, any disciple who entered would definitely improve tremendously. Especially disciples with extremely high comprehension abilities, they might even be able to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. From the first level to the third level, the difference in power was not small. Chen Hao was now a saint, so it was naturally better for him to enter the second level. However, Chen Hao didn't have the confidence to obtain a spot among the saint-level experts. Chen Hao was not so blind as to think that he could defeat a rank 9 martial saint. Fortunately, Chen Hao still had 3 months. "All right. We'll see when the time comes," Chen Hao said. Also, after the sect master found out about the conflict between you and Fan Fong, he told you not to go out on your own. Even if you want to go, you have to tell me in advance. The sect master will send an expert to protect you in secret. However, I suggest that you cultivate in the sect for the time being. After all, you need some time to settle down after the 100 Empire battle. Furthermore, if you wish to engage in a battle, you can head over to the dueling ring area anytime you wish. Don't worry, Chen Hao said with a smile. As for the arena area that Dong Fong Ting mentioned, he had already learned about it from the sect's information and had long since made plans for it. It's good that you know. This is part of the reward. I exchanged it for body-tempering elixirs, mind-refining elixirs and mind-clearing elixirs. There are 100 of each elixir, which will be very useful for your current realm. As for the rest, I will give them to Tantai Lien and the rest. Of course, I will get the lion's share. Senior sister, you really took it seriously, Chen Hao said with a smile, but his hands deftly took the 3 jade bottles from Dong Fong Ting's hands. Body-tempering elixir, mind-refining elixir and mind-clearing elixir were special elixirs that the innate realm needed. Any one of them was worth 1,000 level 8 elixirs. These 300 elixirs were equivalent to 300,000 level 8 elixirs. Although Chen Hao didn't know how big the reward that Dong Fong Ting had received was, it was not small at all. The runner-up of the 100 Empire battle, the 1,000 Treasures Chamber of Commerce, had only rewarded him with 800,000 level 8 elixirs. Dong Fong Ting stared at Chen Hao and said, "Now that you are a martial saint, you can directly enjoy the treatment of a middle outer disciple. The sect master has already promised. However, the time limit is 1 year. After 1 year, it will still depend on you. Whether you can continue to enjoy such benefits will depend on whether you can prove your ability. The competition will be very fierce. The ranking in the arena area is one of the main factors." Dong Fong Ting continued. "Don't worry, the things in my hands will never fly away. There will only be more and more." Chen Hao said confidently. 1 year? It was very long. His goal was to enter the second level of the 7 Stars Hollow in 3 months. That meant that he would have to fight with a middle outer disciple. He would definitely have to face a level 9 martial saint. Although he was only a level 1 martial saint, he had the confidence to fight. The outer disciple arena area would undoubtedly be the first place for him to rise in the star-picking sect. Chen Hao had started cultivating when he was almost 12 years old. He was now 16 years old. In a short 4 years, he had advanced to the martial saint level and possessed powerful combat strength. Even among the many genius disciples with a strong foundation in the cultivation world, he could be considered outstanding. Otherwise, when the sect was selecting disciples, they would not have given him such generous conditions. After entering the star-picking sect, Chen Hao immediately became a middle outer disciple. Coupled with the title of the 100 Empire ranking runner-up and the champion, there was no doubt that all the disciples in the star-picking sect did not know about Chen Hao. However, this was not enough. To Chen Hao, this was far from enough. He, who had reached the peak of many fields, had a natural pride that ordinary people did not have. If he did not do something, he would not do it. If he did, he would do it to the best of his ability. His goal, to most people, was absolutely unprecedented, extremely grand and unimaginable. The obsession of the other him in the past to pursue immortality still existed. Now, he realized that if he reached the peak of cultivation, he might be able to achieve it. Become an immortal and live forever. He believed that as long as he continued to advance towards this goal, his life would be magnificent and exciting. Body tempering elixir, tempering the physical body. My physical body should be very strong, right? Let's test the effects first. After Dong Fong Ting went to find Tantai Lien and the others, Chen Hao asked her to tell them that he was going into seclusion. Then, He used the token to activate the palace's restriction and closed the door to the cultivation room. At this moment, Chen Hao took out a body-tempering elixir from a jade bottle and said, "Take 3 elixirs at the same time for the best effect. Body-tempering elixir, tempering the physical body; spirit-refining elixir, tempering the mind; clear mind elixir, understanding one's nature and condensing one's will." At this moment, the voice of the treasure-hunting sword's spirit sounded. "However, your physical body is indeed very strong. Take 2 body-tempering elixirs, 1 spirit-refining elixir, and 1 clear mind elixir each. Test the effects first. Put aside the star-picking sex cultivation technique for now. You'd better deal with those 5 fellows of yours first. Damn it, they're so noisy. They're always bothering me. Do I need you to tell me that? Of course I'll deal with them first. 3 months is really a short time. I wonder how much I can improve," Chen Hao said. As he spoke, he put 4 elixirs that exuded majestic medicinal power into his mouth according to the number of elixirs mentioned by the treasure-hunting sword spirit. As the 4 elixirs entered his body, Chen Hao felt his mind and dantian tremble at the same time. His mind suddenly became exceptionally clear. A vigorous heat also began to spread throughout his body. A numbing sensation, as if countless little bugs were biting at Chen Hao's mind, appeared in his mind. It was not very painful, but it was very painful. Not only did his physical body feel this way, even his soul felt like it was being bitten by countless bugs. Moreover, his mind was becoming clearer and clearer, and he could not cut off this feeling at all. If possible, Chen Hao would rather endure the heart-wrenching pain than endure the pain of having his heart bitten by tens of thousands of bugs. Forcefully enduring the numbness in his scalp and the urge to bang his head against the wall, Chen Hao immersed himself in his cultivation. After a full 6 hours, the medicinal efficacy was finally completely refined. That painful feeling also disappeared, and in its place was an extremely comfortable feeling of bitterness and sweetness. Phew! It's actually so powerful. Just 4 elixirs are actually equivalent to a month of my cultivation. No wonder there are so many experts in the cultivation world. It seems that 3 months is enough, right? Chen Hao felt that in a short 6 hours, his dantian and meridians had actually expanded by a little. He was extremely shocked. Although he knew that there would be an effect, he did not expect it to be so great. It's not as good as you think. Any elixir will only have the greatest effect the first time it is used. After consuming it to a certain level and reaching the maximum effect of the elixir, consuming it again will no longer have any effect. It can only be treated as an ordinary elixir to refine one's energy. The treasure-hunting sword spirit said, challenging a 9th grade martial saint in 3 months is still very difficult. Only when there's difficulty, there's a challenge. Alright, go do what you need to do. I'm going to start my closed-door cultivation. Chen Hao naturally knew about the effects of the elixirs, so he did not mind at all. Since he could obtain such a good effect the first time, even if the effect weakened in the future, it would still exceed Chen Hao's expectations. It was enough. Azure Dragon, let's start with you. Hiss! Chen Hao's consciousness immediately sank into his mind. Majestic and resplendent green light began to shine from Chen Hao's body. At the same time, under Chen Hao's control, the Xianhuang ring and the 5 treasured swords flew out from between his eyebrows and surrounded Chen Hao. What he needed to do was not only to complete the fusion of the 5 divine beasts' legacies, but also to merge the 5 divine beasts into the 5 treasured swords and combine them with the Xianhuang ring. This was the thought that the mysterious existence conveyed to Chen Hao through the phoenix. A spiritual artifact would advance along with its owner's strength. Only such a spiritual artifact would have a higher degree of compatibility with its owner. After reaching a certain level, it would be able to produce an artifact spirit that truly belonged to itself. It would not be a weapon spirit that was left behind like the treasure-hunting sword spirit. Wow, is this Tantai Lian? She's really powerful. Yes, she has won 10 matches in a row. I'm afraid that this month's champion title will be hers. That's not necessarily true. The top 10 low-level disciples haven't appeared yet. It's only the beginning of the month. But one thing is for sure, The end of the month will definitely be very exciting. I'm really looking forward to the scene of two great beauties competing on the same stage. That's true, but I actually prefer Tantai. TSK. If I can have such a Dao companion, after becoming an inner sect disciple, I'll definitely advance at lightning speed. What are you dreaming about? Tantai Lien is the Dao companion of Chen Hao, the runner-up of the 100 Dynasties ranking. The Phoenix legacy is obviously. I know this. I don't want Tantai Lien. I'm talking about someone like her. But that Chen Hao is really low-key. After entering the sect, he went into seclusion. It's been more than a month now, and he hasn't shown up. Could it be that his reputation is undeserved and he's afraid of challenges? If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 200. That goes without saying. Chen Hao has already reached the Martial Saint realm. If he were to participate in the arena challenge, he would have to do it in the intermediate arena. Although he has the Phoenix's inheritance and is said to be very powerful, he is only a rank 1 Martial Saint. He would not be able to do well in the intermediate arena. Such super geniuses are usually very conceited and would not allow themselves to be defeated. How could he do something he is not confident in? That's true. If it were me, I would not do it either. In the star-picking sect, on a towering mountain peak between the 10 peaks of the Outer Court disciples, many Outer Court disciples were gathered in the huge martial arts practice field on the peak, watching the 9 arenas in the center. The 9 arenas were divided into 6 low-level arenas, 2 middle-level arenas, and 1 high-level arenas. They were also the arenas where the Outer Court disciples of the 3 ranks interacted with one another. The so-called interacted with one another meant that one was not allowed to deliberately kill or harm one another. However, it did not mean that one could not fight to their heart's content. Because every arena was guarded by experts of the sect. Once an uncontrollable accident occurred, they would intervene. At this moment, most of the disciples, including the middle and high-level disciples, were gathered around a low-level arena, discussing it. It was because of Tantai Lien. She was ranked 9th on the 100 Dynasties ranking, had the Phoenix's inheritance, and was an 8th rank E-zone. With these 3 identities, any one of them would attract attention in the 3rd rank sect, the star-picking sect. Moreover, Tantai Lien's stunning appearance had undoubtedly created a great beauty effect. 10 days ago, Tantai Lien, Yang Fan, and the others had started to challenge the arenas to train themselves. However, only Tantai Lien could dominate the arenas. She had not tasted defeat for 10 consecutive days and had already obtained the qualifications to be the arena master of the low-level arena. On the ranking list of the low-level disciples at the edge of the arena, Tantai Lien had already risen to the top 100. This ranking was based on the ranking of the strongest opponent she had defeated. What Tantai Lien wanted to do was to enter the top 10 and shut everyone's mouth. This was because she had also obtained the sect master's reward to enter the 1st level of the 7 Stars Paradise. At this moment, there were less than 2 months before the opening. Although she would definitely be able to enter, according to Dongfang Ting's intention, even if she obtained special permission, she would still occupy a spot. Therefore, it would be best if she could enter legitimately. Moreover, Tantai Lien also possessed this strength. 8th grade E-zone. In addition to the powerful battle strength of the Phoenix inheritance, among the low-level disciples, there was still a high chance of entering the top 10. Even if he couldn't make it into the top 10, he would still be able to get some points if his ranking was close. Whoosh! Just as Tantai Lien was fighting with a low-level disciple, a stream of light streaked across the sky and appeared above the arena mountain. He immediately locked onto Tantai Lien, who was in the midst of a great battle. Immediately after, his powerful senses spread out and quickly found the auras of Yang Fan, Li Feng, and Ni Jianpain. This figure was none other than Chen Hao. To Chen Hao's surprise, Yang Fan and the other 2 were all wounded. They were seated cross-legged in the outer area of the arena, cultivating themselves. "What's wrong with you 3? After quietly appearing in front of the 3, Chen Hao asked aloud. "Ah. Yang Fan and the others immediately opened their eyes in surprise. "You're out?" Chen Hao looked at the injuries on the three of them and replied with doubt. "Ha. Following your wishes, the three of us are slightly weaker. Thus, we've been defeated repeatedly and have continued to challenge. After all, there are no restrictions in this arena. If you lose, you can't go up. Furthermore, there are 6 low-level arenas. We can take turns." Li Yifeng said. "Not bad. Your ranking has risen to within the top 3,000. 7,000 low-level disciples. That's considered above average." Hearing their words, Chen Hao looked at the low-level disciples ranking in the distance and said. He wasn't surprised to see that Tan Tai Lien had risen to the 97th rank. The highest cultivation level of a low-level disciple was a 9th-rank martial ancestor. Furthermore, there weren't many of them. There shouldn't be many who could threaten Tan Tai Lien. "Chen Hao, you're going to start too?" Li Feng asked. Yang Fan and Enai Jianpain also looked at Chen Hao with doubt. "Of course, we naturally have to make use of such good cultivation conditions. Don't just fight blindly. Every time you fight, you have to comprehend something." "Understood," the three of them said. Originally, they wanted to say something. However, when they thought of how abnormal Chen Hao was, they didn't say anything. So what if he was a first-rank martial saint? In the middle-level arenas, the three of them felt that although Chen Hao would definitely meet a strong opponent and lose, no one would be able to stop his rapid improvement. "Xiaoyan's battle is over. Tell her to wait for me. I'll go play first." Chen Hao glanced at Tan Tai Lien, who had firmly gained the upper hand. He directly turned into a stream of light and flew to an intermediate ring in the distance where the winner had just been decided. Who else wants to fight? The victorious disciple exuded a strong aura as he faced the crowd below the arena and asked. "Come down, Senior Chai. If you're not a disciple in the top 100, no one can defeat you. You should wait until the end of the month to challenge again. This time, Senior Chai will definitely enter the top 100. Below the arena, a disciple shouted at the young disciple on the arena. "Of course. Last month, I almost succeeded. This month, I'll definitely succeed. Is there really no one else?" Chai Yi's face revealed a smug smile. There was a hint of loneliness of an expert. Although he knew that this was only the beginning of the month and no real experts had come, being able to perform in front of so many fellow disciples was a rather mighty thing. Within the sect, how did one make a name for themselves? It was by relying on strength and the arena. "I'll go." Just as Chai Yi was about to jump off the arena, a voice suddenly sounded. Chen Hao's figure was like a gust of wind as he floated onto the arena. "HM?" Chai Yi looked at the unfamiliar youth in front of him and slightly frowned. "Who's this?" Below the arena, many disciples also revealed astonished expressions. Those who dared to challenge Chai Yi were basically all middle-level disciples who were rank 7 or 8 martial saints. More or less, they should have some fame among the middle-level disciples. However, none of them had ever seen such a handsome young man before. Furthermore, looking at his age, he was clearly a few years younger. At most, he looked to be 17 or 18 years old. "Junior brother, forgive me for being blind. How should I address you?" "My name is Chai Yi, rank 8 martial saint. I'm ranked 107th among the middle-level disciples." Chai Yi faintly thought of something but did not dare to be sure. He slightly cupped his fist and revealed a smile on his face as he asked. "Senior Chai, it's normal that you don't recognize me. My name is Chen Hao, a new disciple." Chen Hao cupped his fist and said, "Chen Hao? So it's you, huh?" Chai Yi immediately laughed and said, "Chen Hao? He's Chen Hao? What? Awesome. Isn't he a rank 1 martial saint? He hasn't appeared for more than a month and he dares to challenge Senior Chai? He's indeed very handsome." The crowd immediately burst into a buzz of discussion. Everyone looked at Chen Hao with burning gazes. The sudden commotion caused the disciples in the nearby arenas to hear it. Immediately, chaos. In an instant, countless disciples in the entire martial arts practice field swarmed toward the arena that Chen Hao was in. Although Chen Hao had not appeared for more than a month, it did not affect his fame in the star-picking sect. during this period of time, not to mention Tantai Lien, even without her, Chen Hao would have become the person that everyone wanted to meet. For a rank 3 sect like the star-picking sect to be able to recruit the second place of the 100 Empire ranking and draw with the champion, it was definitely a sensational matter. Quick. Chen Hao is going on stage. After hearing the news, some of the disciples from the 100 Empire ranking in the low-level disciples area called out to familiar people and quickly ran over. As they were all from the 100 Empire ranking, they naturally felt a sense of closeness in the sects of the cultivation world. After all, the majority of the disciples in the sects were natives of the cultivation world. In the eyes of these natives, there was no doubt that they were inferior. Therefore, the more dazzling Chen Hao was, the more faith they felt for the disciples of the 100 Empire ranking, who said that we, disciples from low-level empires, were inferior to you natives. Quick, go and inform senior brother Kai Jin that Chen Hao has appeared. Go and inform senior brother Nailin that Chen Hao has appeared. Just as the crowd swarmed towards the arena where Chen Hao was located, a few figures flashed and disappeared. These figures were the disciples that were ordered to wait for Chen Hao's appearance. The people they were going to inform were those ranked close to the top 10. They had long since received news that the sect master's reward for Chen Hao was the first or second floor of the 7 Stars Paradise. Moreover, the exact news was that as long as Chen Hao could rank in the top 20 of the middle-level disciples, he would be able to obtain a spot to enter the second floor. This was something that concerned their own interests. How could they not care? Junior brother Chen Hao, it's not bad that I, Chai Yi, obtained your maiden battle. I know that your battle prowess is very strong. However, I heard that you're only a rank 1 martial saint. So, be careful. I, your senior brother, will not hold back on the arena. Of course, I will try my best to not injure you. Chai Yi said with a slight smile. There was not a trace of disdain or ridicule in his eyes. Thank you, senior brother. Chen Hao said with a slight smile. Yao Yao made a gesture of invitation. Just at this moment, the middle-aged expert in charge of supervising the arena also stood up. His expression revealed a trace of expectation and seriousness as he looked at Chen Hao, who was about to start the battle. In this period of time, all the experts in charge of supervising the middle-level arenas had received Elder Wu's reminder. Once Chen Hao appeared, they must ensure his safety. After all, although there were experts overseeing the arenas, there would still be accidents sometimes. Especially when there were participants that suddenly erupted with their strength, they would be caught unprepared. By the time they reacted, they would have already lost their lives. And Chen Hao dared to challenge Chai Yi, a rank 8 martial saint. It was truly too shocking. It even made this expert feel that Chen Hao's confidence had reached the level of being arrogant and blinded. The majority of the crowd held this thought. The only ones that were filled with anticipation were Yang Fan and the other disciples that came out of the 100 Empire ranking. It was because they were the only ones that had seen Chen Hao's abnormal battle prowess. Especially those powerful absolute skills that came out one after another. They firmly believed that the rank 1 martial saint Chen Hao would have a shocking performance. Furthermore, he had only become a rank 1 martial saint over a month ago. Who knew if such an existence with such abnormal talent had improved again? Third update, last 2 hours. Friends who still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. Chapter 201. A month has finally passed. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your tips and monthly votes. On the last day, it still exploded. Unwilling to accept it, I can only accept it. My brothers and sisters have done their best, and Wushan has also done their best. After working hard for a month, my body is in serious condition. This month I will still work hard, but I can't work so hard, otherwise I really don't know when I will die. In a month, I smoked 7 cigarettes, used 2 bottles of essential bombs, and had a good night's sleep. This month I really can't be like this. I need to adjust. Therefore, this month I will ensure that the last 2 chapters, with intermittent outbursts. Today, the update will be late, probably at night. In the morning, I will go to acupuncture my shoulders and neck. At the same time, I will ask for a guarantee for the last month. Thank you, friends, for your tips this month. Chapter 202. Translator, Transin Editor. In the afternoon sun shone on the mountains of the star-picking sect. Because of Chen Hao's appearance, the outer disciples' arena was bustling with activity that had never been seen before at the beginning of the month. One figure after another flew from the 10 peaks to the arena as fast as light. Cold Gleam soared. In the arena, when Chai Yi and Chen Hao's auras soared to the peak, the great battle finally erupted. Chai Yi shouted, and a 3-inch-long short sword appeared in front of him in a beam of light. Although this short sword was only 3 inches long and appeared to be more like a dagger, its appearance was extremely exquisite. It was exactly the appearance of a treasured sword. As soon as it appeared, a sharp and fierce aura spread out. It was glittering like a crystal, causing people to be unable to look at it directly. Everyone felt waves after waves of sword chi surging with an extremely terrifying might. It can't be, right? Why did senior brother Chai Yi take out the Cold Gleam sword? Seeing this scene, many disciples who knew Chai Yi revealed shocked expressions. They were clear that this Cold Gleam sword was Chai Yi's greatest reliance. It was a treasure he had obtained from a fortuitous encounter in an ancient remnant. It was a flying sword with an artifact spirit. Although it was a medial-grade spirit artifact, it was extremely powerful. Especially among the outer disciples, it could be considered a famous treasure. In the past few days, Chai Yi had not used it. However, because of Chen Hao, he had actually taken out the Cold Gleam sword. Could it be that Chen Hao was already worthy of Chai Yi's caution? The crowd could not understand. This was because the aura that Chen Hao emitted in the arena was far from enough to make them feel terrified. It seemed like he was only an inferior-grade martial sage. Junior brother Chen Hao, be careful. Chai Yi's expression turned grave as he spoke. Others could not sense it. Similarly, he could not sense how strong Chen Hao's aura was. However, he, who was facing his opponent head-on, relied on his sharp intuition to sense a dangerous aura from Chen Hao. When he thought of the rumors about Chen Hao, he did not dare to be careless. Xiao. Along with Chai Yi's words, the short and exquisite cold light sword seemed to have a mind of its own. It streaked across the sky like a stream of light, and under the joint control of Chai Yi and the artifact spirit, it directly spiraled and danced at a terrifying speed, condensing into a light shield completely composed of sword light. In an instant, it wrapped Chen Hao in it, sealing him from all directions and constantly closing in. Senior apprentice brother Chai Yi is too much of a bully. He used his ultimate move the moment he made his move. Seeing this, someone in the crowd said, "What bully? That was how it should be." Isn't this Chen Hao merely the runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking, a brat from a low-rank dynasty of the secular world? He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and dares to challenge a rank 8 martial saint. Does he really think that we are the same as those idiots on the 100 Empire ranking? From the looks of it, senior apprentice brother Chai Yi just wants to teach this kid a lesson, huh? Suddenly, a wild howl that reverberated through heaven and earth interrupted the laughter of the person who was speaking. Within that howl, there were surging fluctuations of origin power. It even exploded with a terrifying aura that was as vast as the mountains and seas, spreading out from Chen Hao's body. This is? Countless people suddenly widened their eyes and let out cries of disbelief. How is this possible? The disciple who spoke just now had an even more astonished expression. Rank 9 martial saint. On the stage, the eyes of the expert who was prepared to save Chen Hao flickered with a bright light. He was extremely shocked as he stared at Chen Hao. In the entire martial arts practice field, countless pairs of eyes were firmly staring at Chen Hao, who was howling madly. At this moment, Chen Hao, who was proudly standing on the stage like a mountain, had his star-picking robe fluttering. His hands were spread open, and he raised his head towards the sky. In between his brows, there seemed to be a heavenly gate that could tear apart space. Waves of terrifying aura surged out. Chen Hao's entire body slowly floated into the air. His incomparably valiant strength was like 10,000 horses galloping, like a flash flood erupting. He actually used absolute strength to forcibly crush the cold sword aura that Chai Yi had condensed. At this moment, Chen Hao was looking down at Chai Yi from above. His handsome face emitted the arrogance of a ruler descending upon the world. Rank 9 Martial Saint, he actually advanced to rank 9 Martial Saint? How is this possible? This is rank 9 Martial Saint? That's right. Only a rank 9 Martial Saint can open the heavenly gate and begin to connect heaven and earth. He actually advanced to rank 9 Martial Saint. It's only been a little over a month. At this moment, all the disciples were stupefied. They stared at the proudly standing Chen Hao and simply did not dare to believe their eyes. What kind of monster was this? Even Yang Fan and those who were familiar with Chen Hao opened their eyes wide in shock. No one had thought that Chen Hao would be able to advance to such a realm in a little over a month's time. In fact, even Chen Hao himself did not expect this. The treasure-hunting sword spirit also did not expect this. In the month of seclusion, Chen Hao had started from the Azure Dragon. In 7 days, he had completely comprehended and refined it. Furthermore, he had integrated it into the wood attribute spiritual sword. What surprised Chen Hao was that after truly obtaining the Azure Dragon's inheritance, he had broken through the first grade and stepped into the second grade Martial Saint level. According to Chen Hao's estimation, the energy required to step into the third grade from the second grade was several times more majestic than the energy required to advance from the first grade to the second grade. Even after comprehending and refining the White Tiger, it was impossible for him to break through again. However, he had only used 5 days to complete the White Tiger. What surprised him was that he had actually broken through to the third grade Martial Saint level. Moreover, the vermilion bird and the black tortoise that followed had also allowed Chen Hao to break through a grade. At this time, Chen Hao was already very surprised. However, after completing the Qilin, something even more shocking and exciting happened. After the 5 divine beasts had completely integrated into the 5-direction spiritual sword and the Xianhuang ring, a terrifying power that was almost unimaginable to Chen Hao actually erupted. It began to circulate through the Xianhuang ring on its own, allowing Chen Hao to break through the barrier with irresistible force. When he reached the 9th grade Martial Saint level, it finally calmed down. Not to mention Chen Hao, even the experienced and knowledgeable treasure-hunting sword spirit did not expect this kind of terrifying advancement. With the 5 elements divine beasts gathered in one body, coupled with the Xianhuang ring, there was a superimposed effect. It was like the additional attributes that appeared after a complete set of combined spiritual weapons had completely erupted in Chen Hao's body. In a short period of 1 month and 10 days, a miraculous advancement. If it weren't for Chen Hao's special body, if it weren't for the 300 body-tempering pills, soul-refining pills, and mind-clearing pills, Chen Hao really didn't know if his dantian and meridians would be able to withstand such a drastic improvement. On the entire mountain peak, there was a huge uproar. Every disciple, including those who had already rushed over, was hysterical, incomparably envious and crazily jealous in their hearts. Especially the disciples who were prepared to watch Chen Hao's show and ridicule him. At this moment, they were as silent as cicadas in winter and did not even dare to fart. 9th grade Martial Saint, Senior Chen Hao, Chai Yi admits that he is no match for you. I will not make a fool of myself. Chai Yi finally came back to his senses, withdrew his cold gleam sword, and said while clasping his fists. Originally, he called him junior brother, but now he directly became senior brother. In the sect, the strong were respected, and those who had reached the top were respected. Those with higher cultivation were the elders, regardless of who entered the sect first. Chen Hao slightly smiled, clasped his fists in return, and did not say anything. Instead, he turned around and looked below the stage. His black eyes were shining with a bright light. No one dared to look at him directly, because everyone knew that the current Chen Hao was waiting for his next opponent. This was only the beginning of the month, and at this moment, Chai Yi was already considered a top expert. Who could be his opponent? Who dared to fight him? 9th grade Martial Saint? Let me fight you. After a moment of silence, an indifferent voice suddenly came from behind the crowd. A figure slowly rose up, and immediately after, countless disciples burst into bursts of exclamations. Senior Brother Kai Jin. It's actually Senior Brother Kai Jin. Phew. There's a good show to watch now. The crowd immediately burst into a buzz of discussion. No one thought that one of the top 10 experts of the middle disciples, Kai Jin, would appear at this time. Kai Jin, 9th grade martial saint, ranked 10th among the middle disciples of the outer court. If there were no accidents, this year, he would be qualified to enter the second level of the 7 Stars Paradise. However, Chen Hao's appearance threatened his position. Originally, he thought that there was no need for him to make a move. The disciples ranked 10th to 20th would be able to step on Chen Hao and enter the first level. But now, the strength that Chen Hao displayed caused some of the experts who had just arrived to have ugly expressions. They did not dare to act blindly without thinking. It was obvious that they did not have the confidence to defeat Chen Hao, and no one wanted to be the first to make a move. This was because Chai Yi, who was ranked 97th, had not tested Chen Hao's true strength. The gazes of these disciples were all focused on Kai Jin. Thus, when he saw Chen Hao standing proudly on the stage, Kai Jin had no choice but to make a move. Although these people were his competitors, they were also his helpers. It was inevitable for him to test the waters. Otherwise, even if Chen Hao defeated them, he would still be able to push Kai Jin down. After all, he had received accurate information that as long as Chen Hao entered the top 20, he would have the qualifications to replace him. In a short month he has advanced to rank 9 martial saint. He does indeed have some ability. However, I believe that the sect master must have given him enormous benefits. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to advance so quickly. Pulling up seedlings to help them grow, building castles in the air. No matter what, I must seriously injure him, or even kill him. This is the safest way, right? Kai Jin's expression was calm, but his eyes were flickering with a threatening light. He stared at Chen Hao as he slowly descended onto the stage. The killing intent in his heart was hidden extremely well. Originally, he did not have the intention to kill Chen Hao. However, at this moment, Chen Hao had suddenly advanced to rank 9 martial saint. This was something that he did not expect. It was better to rely on oneself than on others. There was no sense of security when one's fate was in the hands of others. If Chen Hao was only a rank 1 or 2 martial saint, it would be one thing. Kai Jin believed that the disciples ranked within the top 20, or even the top 50, would be able to defeat him. However, it was clearly impossible now. Thus, he could only rely on himself. Although there were experts in the arena, accidents could still happen. Especially for disciples who had the intention to kill their opponents, there was a high chance of success. Even if he succeeded, it would not affect him. The responsibility would be on the expert guarding the stage. Part 1. I was frightened today. The doctor said that my entire back is stiff. First, I used fire treatment, then I applied medicine and scraping sand. Next, I let out blood. I used needles and stabbed several areas on my back. Then, I placed a transparent fire pot on it. The blood really spurted out. The entire fire pot was dyed red. Although it was frightening, I felt that my back was much more relaxed after the treatment. I also felt more energetic when I wrote. I will try to finish the second chapter before 12. Finally, please recommend me and guarantee me a monthly vote. It's not very strong, but if you want to support Dark Mountain, then you should vote for Dark Mountain to encourage them. Chapter 203. The runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking is indeed extraordinary. You chose the Zhaixing sect over the generous offer of a 7th rank sect. You must be here for the 7-star grotto heaven, right? I'm Kai Jin, ranked 10th. If you want everyone to be convinced, you'll have to defeat me first. Kai Jin stared at Chen Hao as his expression turned cold and stern. Please. Chen Hao smiled and cupped his fists. He did not seem to mind Kai Jin's provocation at all. The 7-star grotto heaven was indeed famous in the cultivation world. Even 7th rank and 8th rank sects did not have it. The benefits for Khanate realm cultivators were unparalleled. If it were not limited to the Khanate realm, the Zhaixing sect would have gotten rid of the title of a third-rank sect. There were close to 10,000 disciples and only 30 spots were available for the 3 levels every year. One could imagine how fierce the competition was. Especially for the large number of low-rank disciples, the competition was even more intense. Chen Hao could directly enter the first level as a reward. This was far more attractive than the inner disciple benefits promised by the 7th-rank sections. Otherwise, the Zhaixing sect would be too ungrateful and shabby. Moreover, because of the Heaven Way rules in the 7-star Grotto Heaven, some high-ranked disciples even deliberately suppressed the advancement of their cultivation level and confined themselves to the Khanate realm. Otherwise, once they entered the Golden Core realm and became an inner disciple, they would no longer be able to enter the 7-star Grotto Heaven. One could imagine how important the 7-star Grotto Heaven was. Kai Jin already had the ability to enter the Martial God realm half a year ago. However, like the 9 people ranked before him, they did not choose to break through the barrier. Instead, they suppressed the vigorous energy in their dantian and waited for the opening of the 7-star Grotto Heaven. If they could enter the Grotto Heaven to cultivate for 3 months and break through the Martial Sage realm and enter the Martial God realm, they would become a higher-ranked disciple. Their strength would increase rapidly and the benefits they would gain would be far greater than the loss of half a year. Moreover, after becoming a high-ranked disciple, they would have a greater chance of breaking through to the 3rd level of the 7-star Grotto Heaven. The sect leader of the Zhaixing sect was well aware of this. It was also because of this that he did not directly reward Chen Hao with the right to enter the 2nd level of the 7-star Grotto Heaven. Very well. Boom. As Kai Jin spoke, the resplendent and vigorous protective aura unrestrainedly erupted. He had lost half a year of suppression, and the qualification that was within his reach was snatched away by Chen Hao. How could he swallow this anger? He was very clear about the situation of the top 9. For the time being, he had no hope of winning. There wasn't much hope for the people behind him to challenge him. Although he was clear that someone was definitely hiding their strength, how could he not? Therefore, the biggest threat to him was Chen Hao. Top 20. As long as he could enter the top 20, he would be able to take away his qualification. As Kai Jin used his energy, strange sounds of the air being torn rang out around him. In the blink of an eye, the protective aura around him became thicker and thicker, becoming purer and purer. Soon after, it actually condensed into a layer of solid armor around him. Sword light flickered on the armor like countless sharp and fine needles. Anything that approached would be instantly pierced and destroyed. Kai Jin snorted coldly. A crescent-shaped broadsword appeared in his hand. He took a step forward and turned into a stream of light, charging viciously at Chen Hao. He was like a steel demon, extremely violent. Seeing Kai Jin's weapon, Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. In the secular world and the 100 Empire ranking, Chen Hao had seen people who used swords as their weapons. Other weapons were extremely rare. More people used broadswords. However, it was the first time he had seen a broadsword like Kai Jin's, which was more than 10 feet long. His aura and appearance were definitely extremely valiant. Moreover, this crescent-shaped broadsword had a cold and strong murderous aura. Obviously, it was one of the more powerful middle-grade spiritual weapons. Immediately, Chen Hao, who had been prepared, raised his palm and opened his 5 fingers. Then he grabbed at Kai Jin, who was charging wildly at him. Clatter! The surrounding energy of heaven and earth was instantly activated by Chen Hao's own energy. The heaven's gate opened, and Chen Hao, who already had a trace of the power of heaven and earth, actually forcibly turned the energy of heaven and earth into a liquid that seemed to have substance. It was like layers of sticky glue that welcomed Kai Jin. "Break for me!" Kai Jin roared angrily and slashed with his broadsword. Instantly, a terrifying energy as vast as the mountains and seas tore apart the energy condensed by Chen Hao. The terrifying broadsword light cut the ground of the arena with a rumble. Along with a deep and constantly extending gully, it slashed at Chen Hao. What a powerful force! If it was a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to resist this move. Chen Hao thought in his heart. However, his palms did not stop as they continuously waved out. The vigorous and majestic energy turned into fused energy at this moment. Under the control of his powerful mental energy, the viscous energy that had been cut apart immediately closed up once again. In an instant, it had surrounded Kai Jin from all directions. Trying to trap me? In your dreams? Although Kai Jin was shocked, he let out a roar and completely went crazy. He roared as he waved the broadsword in his hand. Bang bang bang. Countless terrifying saber lights spread out. The seals that Chen Hao had formed were constantly being slashed apart, but they continued to fuse together. Accompanied by Kai Jin's crazed roar, all the disciples below the arena were shocked, especially when they saw the calm and collected Chen Hao. They were even more shocked. Kai Jin was an expert ranked 10th, and Chen Hao actually lifted something heavy as if it was light and forced Kai Jin into a berserk state. How could he be so powerful? I'm already a half-martial god. After suppressing my strength for half a year, my energy is extremely condensed. How could I lose to him in terms of absolute strength? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Kai Jin roared in his heart. He had completely lost his mind. The only thought in his mind was that he could not afford to lose. He could not afford to lose. If he lost, he would not be able to make up for the loss that he had put in for half a year. Bang! Just as Chen Hao's energy was about to confine Kai Jin from all directions, the protective aura around Kai Jin suddenly exploded. A terrifying aura that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth erupted like a broken dam in Jianghu. Following Kai Jin's beast-like roar, the energy that Chen Hao had unleashed dissipated instantly. The energy of the heavens and earth on the arena that was covered in the rules of space and covered an area with a circumference of over 1,000 zhang under the barriers surged toward Kai Jin. At the same time, Chen Hao was shocked to find that even the energy he sent out had instantly lost control. It was cut off from his mind and crazily surged toward Kai Jin, who was like a terrifying black hole that could devour everything in the world with the heavenly gate wide open above his head. Ranking up to the martial god realm? At this moment, Chen Hao, the experts guarding the ring, and the countless disciples below the ring all let out cries of surprise. Saber shattering the 8 desolates. Before anyone could react, Kai Jin, who had scattered Chen Hao's energy like a demon god, let out a crazy roar. As if he hadn't sensed his breakthrough, he leaped high into the air, raised his saber with both hands, and slashed down at Chen Hao. Crap! The expert guarding the arena was astounded. He could tell how powerful Kai Jin's attack was. Chen Hao was extremely dangerous. If he was killed, how was he going to explain it to the patriarch? Guess. Without any hesitation, the expert raised his hand and waved at Chen Hao with his outstanding cultivation of the Golden Core realm. At that instant, a mystical rune emitting a terrifying energy transformed into a glowing barrier encapsulating Chen Hao. Its speed was significantly faster than Kai Jin's saber glow. As long as it encapsulated Chen Hao, his safety would be guaranteed. However, right at this moment, Chen Hao's face flashed with a trace of cold and powerful fighting spirit. He flipped his palms outwards and pulled them back. Suddenly, he let out a wild howl and slapped out like lightning. Ayo! Energy surged out, whistling as it condensed into 18 lifelike dragons, as if real dragons had descended from the sky, stirring up a violent airflow. With an aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth, they met Kai Jin's terrifying saber light head-on. Boom 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 boom. When the runes released by the Gold Core Realm expert enveloped Chen Hao, the 18 dragons collided with the blade light at almost the same time. Terrifying explosions rang out unceasingly, and a large area of the entire arena collapsed. Even the protective barrier had countless cracks. The huge mountain peak shook violently. If it wasn't for the fact that the entire mountain peak contained a powerful restriction, it might have directly collapsed. When 8 of the 18 dragons were destroyed, Kai Jin's terrifying saber glow also disappeared. The remaining 10 dragons were still whistling toward Kai Jin. Merely, they had already lost Chen Hao's control and lost their agility. Their attacks had also become much slower. They were easily killed by Kai Jin's continuous saber glow. At the moment when Kai Jin was charging toward Chen Hao like a madman, the expert guarding the arena let out a loud shout. Then, a mysterious rune immediately enveloped Kai Jin. Kai Jin, you've already become a martial god. You still want to fight? The middle-aged expert descended between Chen Hao and Kai Jin. He stared at Kai Jin and spoke with a stern voice. At the same time, he was extremely shocked. He was not shocked that Kai Jin had become a martial god at such a time. Instead, he was shocked that Chen Hao, who was only a rank 9 martial emperor, had sent out a palm strike that contained power that surpassed Kai Jin, who had become a martial god. If it wasn't for the protective barrier he had sent out that caused Chen Hao to lose control of his palm strike, Kai Jin would likely have been knocked back. Martial god. The middle-aged expert's voice was like the evening drum and morning bell. It contained a heart-calming power that woke up Kai Jin from his madness. He, who was still frantically struggling, was immediately woken up. His complexion immediately turned deathly pale. Then, he looked to Chen Hao with an incomparably ruthless gaze. Blue veins were bulging on his face. He clenched his fists tightly and his body started to tremble violently. Below the arena, everyone was watching this scene with stupefied expressions. As for those disciples with lower rankings like Kai Jin, they were filled with astonishment and lingering fear. Everyone knew that although that expert had protected Chen Hao and stopped the battle, if he hadn't intervened, Kai Jin, who had become a martial god, would likely have been defeated by Chen Hao. To be able to force Kai Jin into a state of madness, make him forget to suppress his own energy, and break through the barrier to become a martial god, what sort of strength did one need? To be able to block Kai Jin's frantic attack with 8 dragon-shaped energies, what sort of concept was that? Second update. Please recommend me, give me a monthly vote. Thank you. Calm to give me a recommendation vote. Chapter 204. Not bad. Junior sister, tell him later that if he's willing tomorrow night, he can follow me to the serious demonic area. In the air above the arena, 2 figures stared at Chen Hao, who had defeated Kai Jin. One of the figures said with a tinge of admiration in his eyes, "Serious demonic area? Senior sister, can he do it?" The other figure said in surprise. This figure was Dong Fong Ting. The other figure who spoke was a core disciple of the star-picking sect, Yi Feishue, a true genius. In a short month, he was able to advance from a 1st-grade martial saint to a 9th-grade martial saint. Moreover, his energy is vigorous, comparable to a 3rd or 4th-grade martial god. This is not something that can be done with talent alone. If I'm not wrong, he must have had a fortuitous encounter. This kind of person is someone who has great luck and fortune. It won't be easy for him to die. If he follows me, he might be able to advance by leaps and bounds again. You don't have to worry. With me here, I can guarantee his safety. Under the gazes of countless disciples, Kai Jin gritted his teeth and left the stage filled with anger and humiliation. Chen Hao stood on the stage, but no one dared to challenge him. As the crowd discussed, Chen Hao, Tan Tai Lien and the other 4 returned to the mountain where they lived. For now, he had achieved his goal. There shouldn't be any problems entering the 2nd floor of the 7 Stars Paradise. Moreover, he was different from Kai Jin and the others. He did not need to suppress his cultivation. Even if he became a martial god in a month, he believed that the sect leader would not deprive him of the right to enter the 2nd floor. Just like when he was allowed to enter the 1st floor. Now, he could break through to the 3rd floor. It was difficult. And very difficult. After all, even if he became a divine, it would be impossible for him to enter the top 10 of the advanced disciples. The reason why martial saints could advance so quickly was because of the inheritance of the 5 divine beasts. After entering the divine realm, there were no divine beasts to merge with. Senior sister? When the 5 of them flew to the top of the mountain, a figure standing on a cloud appeared before Chen Hao and the others. After a month of closed-door training, you've actually become a rank 9 martial saint. I really don't know how you did it. Dong Fong Ting lightly smiled and said, "You're all pretty good too." Don't compare yourself to him. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if you lose your confidence. Senior sister, if you want to compete with him, how can you still see us? You would have already died in a corner. Li Feng laughed. Senior sister, is there any good news? Chen Hao stared at Dong Fangting and asked. For you, I guess so. Senior sister recommended you to a core disciple, senior sister Yi Feishue. What do you mean? Chen Hao was slightly stunned. Let's talk in the room. Dong Fangting said. Do you know why Xian wanted you to join the Imperial Sword Sect? After everyone entered the palace where Chen Hao was located, Dong Fangting looked at Chen Hao and asked. However, before Chen Hao could answer, she continued, in addition to receiving rewards from the sect, she actually wants to strengthen her forces. It shouldn't be long before she becomes a core disciple of the Imperial Sword Sect. In any sect, to become an inner disciple, one must first step into the Golden Core realm. As for core disciples, there are usually only a few dozen of them in each sect. Becoming a core disciple means that you will be the focus of the sect's nurturing. In the future, you will be the leader of the sect and the main figure. Basically, you will be a super strong person who stands out among the core disciples. Therefore, in any sect, the core disciples have to establish their own forces and supporters. This is the real reason why Xian wants you. Our Zhaixing sect currently has 24 core disciples. The inner disciples are also divided into 24 factions, which gather around the core disciples. Among the outer disciples, only those who are strong and talented will be chosen by the core disciples. They will receive good karma in advance to help you cultivate. When you are promoted to inner disciples, you will become part of their forces. To you, this will be an additional benefit. You'll have a backer in the sect. Senior sister Yi Feishue is one of the core disciples, ranked 6th. Nascent soul advanced stage. Senior sister belongs to her faction, so she recommended you to her? You don't have any objections, do you? No. Since senior sister is in her faction, it is only right for me to join. What about Xiaoyan and the other 3? Chen Hao asked. They are still low-level disciples now. They must at least step into the intermediate stage. Don't worry. One more thing, senior sister Yi wants me to ask you. Tomorrow night, she will enter the Heavenly Wolf Demon area to do something. She said she can bring you in. Will you go? Demon area? Chen Hao was slightly surprised. Yes, there will be several martial god advanced disciples and golden core experts with her. Just be careful. With senior sister Yi, you should not be in any danger. It will be a good opportunity for you to gain experience. Sure, no problem. Chen Hao agreed readily. Tomorrow, you will meet senior sister Yi at Flying Snow Peak before 9 o'clock. That's settled. The demon area was an underground space in the cultivation world. It was filled with countless demon Dao experts. Like the cultivation world, there were countless demon Dao sections. There were detailed records in the summary of the Eastern continent, but only the stronger sects and regions of the demon area were recorded. There was no mention of the Heavenly Wolf demon area. It should not be very strong. Otherwise, Yi Feishue would not have dared to bring Chen Hao and several martial god advanced disciples in. After Dong Fangting left, Chen Hao wanted to keep Tantai Lian and start a special cultivation method that the mysterious existence in his mind had passed to him through the phoenix. As long as he mastered it, he would be able to let the phoenix enter Tantai Lian's body without yin and yang intercourse. However, Chen Hao scratched his head when Tantai Lian said that men and women should not touch each other. Then she left with Yang Fan and the other 2. Chen Hao was depressed. So was Little Bird. They could only wait for the right opportunity. Whoosh. At the end of the evening, the sky was bright and the moon hung high in the sky. A stream of light flashed across the mountains of the Zhaixing sect. Chen Hao held the Zhaixing sect token in his hand. The token shone with a faint aura and guided him to Flying Snow Peak. Flying Snow Peak was named after Yi Feishue. In the Zhaixing sect, each core disciple had their own peak. The peak was named after the core disciple. After flying for more than 10 minutes, Chen Hao slowly descended toward a towering peak that was obviously taller than the surrounding peaks. Chen Hao. Just as Chen Hao landed in front of the gate at the edge of the peak, a young disciple guarding the gate smiled and asked, "Yes. Greetings, senior brother." Chen Hao cupped his fists and said, "You're welcome. We'll be on the same side from now on. I'm Tan Ming, an outer court advanced disciple. Let's go. We're only waiting for you." Tan Ming stared at Chen Hao with bright eyes without any arrogance. The runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking became an intermediate disciple right after entering the Zhai Xing sect. Furthermore, he rose from 1st grade martial saint to 9th grade martial saint and defeated Kai Jin, who had broken through to martial god. Who would dare to look down on him? It was good enough that they did not curry favor with him. "Thank you, senior brother." Chen Hao followed Tan Ming and quickly walked through the gate. Many majestic palaces stood on the peak. What surprised Chen Hao was that he actually sensed the auras of countless powerful cultivators. "Senior brother Tan, isn't this peak senior sister Ye's peak alone? Why are there so many people?" It's true that this peak is senior sister Ye's. However, senior sister Yi has close to 1,000 inner court disciples. There are cultivation areas on her peak. When you become an inner court disciple, senior sister Yi will also specially condense a palace for you. We inner disciples are constantly fighting amongst each other. Only by being able to unite as one will we be able to gain a foothold. "I see." As they spoke, the two of them entered the core of the peak. It was the most majestic palace. More than 10 figures appeared in front of Chen Hao. Everyone's gaze instantly gathered on Chen Hao. "Greetings, senior sister Yi." "Greetings, senior brothers and senior sisters," Chen Hao said in a deep voice. Facing everyone's scrutinizing gaze, his expression was calm. Yi Feishue, who was sitting in the middle, looked at Chen Hao and smiled. She said, "Chen Hao, you're not bad. Senior sister, let me introduce you." As Yi Feishue spoke, she introduced more than 10 people to Chen Hao one after another. Including Chen Hao and Yi Feishue, there were a total of 16 people. 5 of them were Golden Core Realm experts who had just become inner court disciples. 9 of them were outer court high-rank disciples. Only Chen Hao was a middle-rank disciple. As for the 9 high-rank disciples, their cultivation was between grade 4 and grade 6 martial god realm. This time, I'm going to the serious demon area to kill a demon Dao loose cultivator expert. There are many low-rank earth demons that should be suitable for you to train. At that time, you just need to follow me. If there's an accident, I can remedy it in time. Let's go first. After Yi Feishue finished introducing the people present to Chen Hao, she continued. As she spoke, she waved her hand. Lines of talismans were released from her hand and wrapped around Chen Hao and the others. With a whoosh, Chen Hao felt a violent fluctuation in the space. Everyone had already flown out of the palace. There was a vague, mysterious force that condensed everyone into one body and went straight into the clouds. Immediately, the night wind whistled and the white clouds rolled, condensing into a huge auspicious cloud below everyone. The moment the auspicious cloud condensed, the strong wind disappeared. Everyone turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the horizon at a speed of 1,000 miles in a breath. So fast! Chen Hao was slightly shocked as he spoke. Dongfang Ting had also brought him to fly on the clouds before. However, their speed was far from comparable to Yi Feishue's. A nascent Soul Realm Core disciple is really powerful. Okay, the entrance to the Sky Wolf Demon area is below. Let's go down. In less than an hour, under Yi Feishue's lead, everyone had already crossed a distance of nearly 100,000 miles and arrived at a desolate mountain range. The thick fog made it impossible for everyone to see the scene below them. After descending for several thousand feet, a huge and deep crevice appeared in front of everyone's eyes. It was pitch black and they couldn't see the bottom. Whoosh! Everyone directly drilled into the crevice. Immediately, bats and flying insects filled the sky and swept out. Open! After descending for another 1,000 feet, Chen Hao felt a strong demonic beast aura. At this moment, Yi Feishue lightly shouted. She took out a pitch-black talisman with both hands and abruptly activated her energy. P.S. First update, looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you, Top Laver Brother, for your reminder. Tan Ming's realm was mistaken by Dark Mountain and has been corrected. Thank you. Chapter 205. Hiss Hiss Hiss. A pitch-black light flickered, followed by a spatial distortion. Everyone appeared in a boundless underground world. A sinister wind blew, causing Chen Hao and the other Xiantian disciples to shiver involuntarily. Cold, it wasn't just the temperature, but the kind of cold that invaded one's mind. This is the Sky Wolf Demon Domain. Within a radius of several 100,000 miles, it is filled with endless earth demons and demonic beasts. Come follow me, Yi Feishue said in a low voice. Remember, do not absorb the heaven and earth energy here. It is filled with endless demonic qi. If you do not refine it in time, it will create illusions and even turn into a demon. I can only use pills to replenish my energy. Understood. Everyone replied. Other than Yi Feishue, Chen Hao and the other 15 people, including the 5 experts who had just entered the Golden Elixir realm, did not have any experience in the demon area. At this moment, there was a hint of excitement on their faces. However, Chen Hao suddenly realized a very serious problem. Senior Sister Yi, Can you lend me some pills first? When I came, I forgot to prepare. Chen Hao scratched his head and said embarrassedly. He had indeed forgotten to prepare. He had long understood the special situation of the demon domain space from the summary of the Eastern continent, but he had not thought of the problem of elixirs when he came. After all, he always carried his elixirs with him. However, at this time, he remembered that after more than a month of seclusion, he had already used up almost all of the millions of medicinal pills he had. There were not many left, and he was once again a pauper. Training here for a day or two was still manageable, but if it was more than 10 days to half a month, with his medicinal pill-swallowing ability, it definitely wouldn't be enough. I'll lend it to you. Here are 100,000 8th-rank spirit pills. Senior Sister Yi doesn't need our low-level pills. Tan Ming saw Yi Feishue frowning slightly and immediately took out a storage ring and handed it to Chen Hao. Thanks, Senior Brother Tan. I'll return it to you when we get back. Chen Hao said. There's no rush. It won't be too late to return it when you have it, Tan Ming said straightforwardly. Looks like you've consumed a lot of energy to improve so quickly. Yi Feishue glanced at Chen Hao and said. Chen Hao scratched his head awkwardly and didn't say anything. Forgetting to prepare, this excuse was really too lame. At the current level, who didn't have a storage ring? There was no one who did not carry medicinal pills and precious items with them. At this time, Chen Hao opened his mouth to ask for medicinal pills. It was obvious that he was so poor that he couldn't afford to eat. When we go back, Senior Sister will give you some. Yi Feishue's eyes flashed with a glimmer as she also straightforwardly said. As an experienced person, she didn't need to think too much to calculate how many medicinal pills Chen Hao would have had when he entered the sect. The rewards for the first runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking would not be small. At the very least, he would need hundreds of thousands or even close to 1,000,000 level 8 spirit pills, and this was without considering whether Chen Hao had any savings. But now, he had actually used it all up. Moreover, he, who was in seclusion, couldn't have gone to the Chamber of Commerce to spend it. Then, there was only one possibility, and that was that he had swallowed and refined all of it. What did it mean for a martial sage to consume over 1,000,000 elixirs in a month's time? At the very least, Yi Feishue had not been able to do so when he had been a martial sage. Aside from being filled with dense spiritual qi and demonic qi, this space of the demonic domain was no different from the outside world. Mountains, rivers, exotic flowers, herbs, mines, and so on could be found. Chen Hao and the rest followed Yi Feishue and advanced quickly. The demonic qi also became more and more intense as they went deeper. Everyone retracted their auras, carefully preventing the demonic qi from entering their bodies. CSISI. GGGA. Just as the group advanced quickly for 100 li, SISI, sounds suddenly appeared in front of them. Instantly, strange cries rang out. Eerie blue eyes appeared in the dark space of the demonic domain, fiercely charging towards Chen Hao and the rest. Dark demonic eagles. Yi Feishue, who was in front, suddenly stopped and said, "Chen Hao, I'll leave this area to you." But, whoosh. Chen Hao responded and took a step forward. The five elements golden sword in his hand shone with a resplendent golden light as he charged towards the dozens of flying dark demonic falcons at lightning speed. Dark demonic eagles were earth demons with the strength of an 8th grade martial sage. In Yi Feishue's opinion, one or two of them would not be a challenge to Chen Hao. However, if there were dozens of them, it should be able to temper Chen Hao. Especially since the attacks of these earth demons contained dense demonic qi, which was very different from the demonic beasts of the outside world. They were able to disturb the mind of a cultivator. In addition, when cultivators fought in the demonic domain, they had to rely on elixirs to recover their energy. Naturally, their battle strength would be affected. "Senior sister, can Chen Hao do it alone?" Tan Ming asked with a frown when Chen Hao charged towards the dark demonic eagles. "He should be able to. Although he's only a 9th grade martial sage, his battle strength should not be much weaker than yours. 38 of them, he should be able to handle them, eh?" Yi Feishue said with a trace of expectation as she looked at Chen Hao. However, just as she finished speaking, she suddenly frowned and revealed a trace of astonishment. Could it be that he wants to fight in close combat? When Chen Hao was 300 meters away from the dozens of dark demonic eagles, he did not use his sword to attack. Instead, he continued to approach them. This caused her to feel astonished. One must know that the most powerful aspect of the dark demonic eagles was their speed. Furthermore, they were different from the solitary eagles of the outside world. The dark demonic eagles appeared in groups. Combined with their frightening speed, their group attacks were very powerful. Especially when they were surrounded, their sharp beaks could easily tear apart a martial sage's protective aura. Pu. Just as Yi Feishue approached and prepared to assist Chen Hao at the crucial moment, Chen Hao, who had charged into the group of dark demonic eagles, finally drew his sword. Without giving the crowd too much time to imagine, the basic sword technique of the star-picking outer sect, the flowing cloud sword technique, surged out. Clouds are impermanent, moving with the wind and changing with the thunder. After comprehending the true essence of the wind attribute and holding the golden sword that contained boundless thunder attribute energy, Chen Hao made the flowing cloud sword technique produce an effect that no one could have imagined. The sword's momentum was erratic and unpredictable. When the sword was drawn, it was like thunder descending from the heavens. In a breath's time, the sky was filled with arrows of blood. Not a single one of the extremely fast dark demonic eagles could get close to Chen Hao without dying. Powerful. Indeed, he has comprehended the profoundness of strength. The essence of the flowing cloud sword technique has been displayed to the extreme. Yi Feishue's figure froze as she spoke with a trace of surprise and admiration in her eyes. In just 2 short moments, 38 dark demonic eagles had all died under Chen Hao's sword. Without exception, all of them had their throats pierced. After killing them, Chen Hao did not stop. He directly used the golden sword to pick out a black crystal that resembled a demonic beast's core from the corpses of the dark demonic eagles. This was called a demonic core. The crystal contained boundless natural energy and demonic aura. It was even more berserk than a demonic beast's core. It could be used to refine weapons and pills. Its value was even higher than a demonic beast's core of the same level. That was because a cultivator could refine a demonic beast's core to make their temperament more tenacious and their spirit more condensed. They would not be invaded by external evil and would not be confused by illusions. After reaching a certain level, their mind would be able to emit a righteous aura that could suppress evil. Junior brother Chen Hao is actually so powerful. Admirable. Tan Ming praised from the bottom of his heart. As a rank 5 martial god, he was confident that he would not be able to do it as cleanly as Chen Hao. Senior brother is overpraising me, Chen Hao said with a faint smile. He knew very well that Yi Feishue wanted him to come to this battle to see his true strength. After estimating it, he would be able to arrange a suitable battle for him. Therefore, Chen Hao would naturally not hide his strength. Otherwise, the training this time would not have been of any use. Very good. If you can comprehend the true essence of the lightning attribute, the power of the flowing cloud sword technique will increase by 30%. That would truly be turning something rotten into something magical. You can try to comprehend it. Let's go, we'll continue to go deeper. Yi Feishue pointed with bright eyes. Chen Hao was slightly stunned. It was as if her words had woken him up from a dream. Thinking back, he was threatened by Yang Fan's wind attribute's true essence. That was why he tried to comprehend the wind attribute's true essence and succeeded in the end. But until now, Chen Hao had not truly used his heart to comprehend any true essence. Of course, there was basically no one who would specially try to comprehend anything. After all, any true essence of the heavenly law could only be discovered and not sought. It was not something that could be comprehended just because you insisted on comprehending it. The reason why Yi Feishue said this was because she felt that Chen Hao had already displayed the essence of the lightning attribute energy to the extreme. There was a faint trace of comprehension of the lightning attribute's true essence. That was why she reminded him. More than 10 people in the vast space of the devil domain would battle whenever they encountered an earth demon. It was all arranged by Yi Feishue. If it was not an individual battle, then it was not a group battle. If it was not a very strong battle, then it was the matter of Chen Hao and the other Xiantian disciples. The strong ones were handed over to the Golden Core experts. And after every battle, Yi Feishue would hit the nail on the head and point out everyone's weaknesses, flaws, and the direction they should work towards. Especially the few Xiantian disciples. Under this kind of enlightening guidance, they benefited greatly. On the contrary, every time Chen Hao appeared, Yi Feishue would be unable to say anything. Because Chen Hao's performance, relative to his realm, had already reached the realm of perfection, Yi Feishue also wanted to pick out some flaws and give some pointers to strengthen this good karma. Unfortunately, Chen Hao did not give her the chance. Under such circumstances, it directly led to the number of times Chen Hao appeared, far exceeding Tan Ming and the rest. Furthermore, the battles arranged for Chen Hao became more and more terrifying. 1. After a full 10 days, everyone advanced as they fought. They had advanced for tens of thousands of miles. A few hundred miles away, a faint blue light appeared, like a ghost fire. And at this moment, the black token that Yi Feishue used to enter the space of the devil domain suddenly flew out in front of her and let out a buzzing sound. It has finally appeared. Yi Feishue's expression changed slightly. 2 rays of cold light flashed in her eyes as she muttered. "Senior sister, is it Itoda Ito?" A Golden Core expert asked. Second update, third update before 12 o'clock. Looking for monthly votes, recommendation votes. Chapter 206. That's right. The Wan Tong Chamber of Commerce's information is indeed accurate. Be careful later. This Itoda is at the peak of the nascent soul realm. If I want to defeat him, I will need to go all out. You just need to help me kill the low-level earth demons near the demonic god altar. Do what you can. Everyone's expression turned solemn as they replied. I will kill my way over first. You guys follow me. Yi Feishue said and disappeared in front of everyone. Let's go. Kill as many earth demons as possible and help senior sister. This Itoda is a rogue cultivator of the demonic Tao. He roams the cultivation world and specializes in killing and robbing. Many rogue cultivators and sect disciples have lost their lives in his hands. A senior brother that senior sister Yi thought highly of was killed by him. This time, senior sister Yi paid a huge price to buy the information that he is hiding here. We can't let him escape. The Golden Core Realm disciple who spoke just now said. He was the strongest among the 5 Golden Core Realm experts. Obviously, he had followed Yi Feishue for a while and knew more about the situation. Itoda is at the peak of the nascent soul realm, while senior sister Yi is only at the late nascent soul realm. Senior brother Li Jing, senior sister Yi won't be in danger, right? Another Golden Core Realm disciple asked as everyone quickly flew towards the blue light in the distance. Don't worry. Senior Sister Yi is the sixth core disciple of our star-picking sect. Although it will be difficult, she will definitely be able to kill Itoda. Senior Sister Yi has just obtained an inheritance from a relic. Although she didn't reveal it, she must have obtained an amazing harvest. Otherwise, she wouldn't have brought us here. We only need to kill the earth demons near the demonic god altar. Boom, boom, boom. When Chen Hao and the others were approaching, terrifying energy explosions were heard from afar. Obviously, Yi Feishue had started a massacre. A moment later, everyone arrived at an area of several dozen kilometers covered in a blue light. The blue light came from a circular altar with a diameter of 3,000 meters in the center of this area. It condensed into a blue protective barrier. Tens of thousands of earth demons with powerful auras and huge figures surrounded the altar. Countless dark demon eagles flew in the sky and madly attacked Yi Feishue, who had already reached the altar. This scene shocked even Chen Hao, especially the towering altar, which was more than 1,000 feet high. Countless human skulls and black crystals were embedded in it. The dim blue light was emitted from the eyes of these skulls, which were like aurora pillars supporting the entire protective barrier. At the center of the altar, there was a figure sitting cross-legged. At this moment, her body was violently trembling. Obviously, she was cultivating some kind of secret technique and had entered a critical moment. She emitted an endless pressure and a strange aura. Just a glance was enough to make people feel a chill from the depths of their hearts. At this moment, Yi Feishue's body was emitting a bright golden light. Within the golden light, there were streaks of lightning. She stood in the air and didn't need to make a move. The earth demons that were charging at her were turned into thick smoke within 1,000 feet of her. Their bodies were directly crushed. A huge rune was condensing in front of her, crazily devouring the energy of heaven and earth. The buzzing sound was earth-shattering. The incomparably powerful aura shocked Chen Hao and the others. Especially Chen Hao. Until now, this was the first time he had seen the unparalleled power of a nascent soul realm expert. Just the aura of this power made him feel terrified. It was definitely not something he could resist. Kill. Quickly kill. Before the seal is broken, the more earth demons we kill, the more advantageous it will be for Senior Sister Yi. The Golden Core Realm expert shouted. Ha! Is everyone here? Very good. Seal for me. When Chen Hao and the others rushed into the crowd of demonic beasts, on the altar, the figure who seemed to have reached a critical juncture suddenly burst into laughter. Sitting cross-legged, he raised his hands and formed a series of seals at lightning speed, continuously slamming them out. Not good. Quickly retreat. Almost at the same time, Yi Feishue, who was crazily condensing energy to break the blue barrier, suddenly exclaimed, This. Too late. Pa. The figure laughed wildly. The blue light barrier suddenly emitted pillars of light, like spiraling ropes. In an instant, they crossed a distance of thousands of feet and entangled Chen Hao and the others without any suspense. With a swallow and a spit, Chen Hao and the more than 10 disciples were sucked into the light barrier without any resistance. They were locked to the ground of the altar and could not move at all. At that instant, everyone, including Chen Hao, could feel a great sense of terror. What was going on? Why was Yi Feishue unable to stop it? Break for me. At the same time, Yi Feishue's expression was dignified to the extreme. He let out a loud shout and suddenly circulated the energy in his body. He urged the terrifying runes to meet the blue snakes released by Ito-Ta. Little late nascent soul stage, you overestimate yourself. Rumble. In an instant, Yi Feishue's runes exploded. The immortal binding rope that Ito-Ta had condensed all his energy to successfully entangle Yi Feishue. Like Chen Hao and the others, he was sucked into the barrier. Yi Feishue struggled crazily, but the rope on his body was getting tighter and tighter. Impossible. Impossible. Yi Feishue also lost his calm. His eyes flashed with shock as he stared at Ito-Ta. Why is it impossible? I, Ito-Ta, have dominated the world of cultivation. If I was so easily killed by you so-called sect geniuses, how could I live until now? When you entered the heavenly wolf demon domain, I already knew that this altar was made for you. Not to mention a puny late nascent soul stage cultivator like you, even a peak nascent soul stage cultivator wouldn't be able to escape from me. However, since you were able to find this place, you must have received accurate information, right? It seems that I have to change my body again. Your body is not bad, but it's a pity that you're a woman. I can play with you. Itota looked at Yi Feishue, who was clenching his teeth, and said lightly. At the same time, he slowly stood up and said, "Don't struggle. It's useless under my immortal binding array. As long as I activate the array, you will be able to condense essence pills in half an hour." Hehe, you must be the core disciple of the Zhaixing sect, Yi Feishue? Late nascent soul stage, a virgin body. It's just right for me to take over your body and balance your yin and yang, ha. Shameless. Itota, if you dare to touch me, our Zhaixing sect will definitely crush you to pieces. Naive. Do you think I'm scared? You geniuses in the birdcage all say the same thing before you die. It's really boring. Shut up and don't try to commit suicide. It's useless. Your energy has been sealed by my array formation. As Itotai spoke, he looked at the several Golden Core Realm disciples. They are all in the early Golden Core stage. It's fine if they are in the early Golden Core stage, but this appearance. When Itoda looked at Chen Hao, his eyes suddenly lit up. Tisk, what a strong and masculine blood chi. His body is strong, and he looks so young and handsome. Great. It's you. Rise. Itoda had a look of excitement on his face as he laughed heartily. He had roamed the world of cultivation and committed all sorts of evil deeds. He had killed countless sect disciples, but he was still alive and well. This was all thanks to the demonic path body possession technique. He often changed his appearance, causing his life aura to completely change. In addition to his cautious personality, he would change his body almost every half a year. In addition to avoiding being hunted down, he also wanted to find a body with a strong talent for the body. Although Chen Hao in front of him only had the aura of a martial saint, the vigorous young blood chi in his body made him, who was sensitive to the body, very surprised and excited. Not to mention, Chen Hao's young and handsome face was simply to his liking. With this appearance and with his strength, wouldn't he be able to do as he pleased? As soon as he said the word rise, a vigorous and terrifying evil energy wrapped around Chen Hao and slowly floated in front of him. What are you doing? Chen Hao did not struggle as the energy wrapped around him. His dark and deep eyes were as calm as water as he stared at the terrifying existence in front of him. What courage, what a pure willpower. It seems that to destroy you, I will have to spend some effort. Ito-ta, don't you dare. He is the most talented disciple among the new disciples of the star-picking sect. He is very likely to be the future sect leader. If you dare to touch him, the sect leader will personally kill you. Is that so? Is he more important than you, a core disciple? Of course. That's the best. What's his name? Chen Hao. A super genius who reached the 9th grade martial saint at the age of 16. If you don't want to die, you'd better let him go. Let us go. I, Yi Feishue, am a woman of my words. This matter is written off. In the future, I will not find trouble with you. Good. Very good. I am tired of using the name Ito-ta. In the future, I will be Chen Hao. I have not tasted the feeling of being a sect disciple. Don't be too excited. I know you have the seal of life and death. Unfortunately, in my immortal trapping formation, no information can be transmitted. Seal. Yi Feishue wanted to say something, but Ito-ta sent out a ray of energy. Suddenly, a bright blue light rose from the altar and covered everyone. Possession technique, astral projection. Following Ito-ta's shout, the energy in his body converged to the extreme. Suddenly, a nascent soul that looked exactly like Ito-ta came out from his dantian. At the same time, a colorless and invisible energy wave came out from between his eyebrows and merged with the nascent soul. It turned into a ray of light and entered Chen Hao's mouth. The moment it entered Chen Hao's body, Ito-ta's nascent soul rushed into Chen Hao's dantian. The liquid energy in Chen Hao's body surged and gathered towards Ito Ta's nascent soul. At the same time, there was a loud explosion in Chen Hao's mind. Ito Ta's soul had forcibly entered Chen Hao's mind. Kid go to hell? Pa. Ito Ta laughed wildly. He was a little surprised that he could break into Chen Hao's mind so easily. Just now, Chen Hao was calm and his eyes were sharp. He thought that Chen Hao's soul was very stubborn and his mind was very strong. If he wanted to destroy his soul, it would take a lot of effort. But now it was broken so easily. Idiot! Of all the choices, you chose to possess my body. You are digging your own grave. Third update. Brothers and sisters who are guaranteed monthly votes, vote for Wushan. Thank you. Chapter 207. Along with Chen Hao's cold and arrogant voice, a stream of condensed and powerful soul power suddenly exploded in his mind. From all directions, it condensed into a heaven and earth cage, blocking all of Ito Ta's soul attacks. Furthermore, it directly trapped Ito Ta's soul within it. Soul force was a power that everyone was born with. The stronger the soul, the stronger the power. The most direct manifestation of a powerful soul was the eyes and aura. A person with a firm will and a resolute heart often had a powerful soul. In the Hotian and Xiantian realms, soul force could not be changed at all. Only after reaching the Golden Core realm, especially the nascent soul realm, the soul of a cultivator would begin to strengthen, but the strengthening was very limited. However, because Ito Ta practiced the demonic art of possession, his soul was far stronger than ordinary people. Therefore, when he saw Chen Hao, although Ito Ta felt that Chen Hao's soul was much stronger than ordinary Xiantian realm cultivators, he did not care. With his cultivation base at the peak of the nascent soul stage, coupled with the countless experiences of possession, how powerful was his soul? Not to mention Chen Hao, he was not afraid of a super genius at the peak of nascent soul realm. But at this moment, facing the majestic soul energy that directly sealed him from all directions, Itoda felt an unprecedented sense of danger. He had always been careful and cautious, but he did not expect that there would be a problem in this link that did not have a problem at all. He was obviously a Xiantian realm cultivator. How could his soul force be so strong? Not only did it seal his soul in an instant, but even his thoughts could not be leaked out. What was more terrifying was that the connection between his soul and his nascent soul was also forcibly cut off. How is it possible? How is it possible? How can your soul be so strong? Everything is possible. Heaven wants you to die. Die. Chen Hao's cold voice was like a punishment from heaven, and the powerful soul force, along with his voice, suddenly violently crushed Ito Ta in his mind. Boom, boom, boom. A terrible soul storm broke out in Chen Hao's mind, and the soul war was once again staged in Chen Hao's mind. This was different from the battle between Chen Hao and himself in the past. At this moment, Chen Hao was like a monarch descending upon the world. This was the space he ruled, and he was the master of this place. Similarly, the difference was that Chen Hao's soul war was the most profound fusion, not the destruction. Strictly speaking, his soul was a mutated existence. Just how strong was he? What's more, in this absolute dominating space, Chen Hao was not fighting alone. The moment Chen Hao launched his attack, ow ow ow. Ga! A cry that resounded throughout the heavens and earth exploded in his mind. Qilin Patu. Dragon rises from the abyss. Tiger descends the mountain. Vermilion bird spreads its wings. Turtle snake overturning the sea. Phoenix burns the sky. At this moment, the power of the inheritance of the 5 mythological beasts and the phoenix became Chen Hao's trump card. It erupted with a bang, and accompanied by Ito Ta's miserable screams, Chen Hao rapidly destroyed Ito Ta's soul force. Yi Feishue and the others were completely confined by the immortal binding formation condensed by the altar. They couldn't move their bodies and couldn't even speak. They could only see with their eyes. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on Chen Hao. However, they already knew that after a while, this Chen Hao would no longer be Chen Hao, but Ito Ta, the king of hell. Facing the impending death, everyone's eyes were filled with endless unwillingness, especially Yi Feishue, because she seemed to have seen the humiliation she was about to face. Death was not scary. What was scary was the way to die, and in the hands of such a devil. Remorse. Yes, remorse for her naivety, remorse for her overconfidence, remorse for not listening to the earnest advice of the sect leader and the elders. If not for that, she wouldn't have fallen into such a hopeless situation. If not for that, she wouldn't have dragged down so many junior brothers and sisters. Boom boom boom. After half an hour, in Chenhao's mind, Ito-Ta's soul was left with the last condensed soul essence. As long as this soul essence was destroyed, it meant that Ito-Ta's soul was destroyed. However, at this moment, Chenhao, who was wholeheartedly trying to destroy Ito-Ta's soul, was suddenly interrupted by the surge of terrifying energy and severe pain in his dantian. Ito-Ta's nascent soul was the crystallization of his life's energy. How terrifying was the energy of the peak of the nascent soul realm! Although the connection between Ito-Ta's soul and nascent soul was cut off, there was still a fundamental connection between the soul and nascent soul. Simply speaking, the nascent soul could be compared to Ito-Ta's spiritual tool. As long as Ito-Ta's soul was not destroyed, his imprint would always be on the nascent soul. However, if Ito-Ta's soul was destroyed, the imprint would disappear. Then, the difference between the nascent soul and the spiritual tool was that the nascent soul without the imprint would become ownerless energy, explode, and merge with the heaven and earth again. What should I do? At this moment, Chenhao was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, he stopped. Otherwise, if he completely destroyed Ito-Ta's soul, at this moment, his physical body would be directly turned into ashes by the terrifying energy of the nascent soul's explosion. Peak of the nascent soul realm. I am only a 9th grade martial saint. There is a huge gap between us. Moreover, this energy is too high level and filled with endless demonic aura. I seem to be unable to refine it. With such a condensed and majestic high-level energy, although Chenhao was very reluctant, he had to make a decision in an instant to push the nascent soul out of his dantian and release it. Otherwise, it would be like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. He would definitely die from overeating. However, when Chenhao's mind merged with his dantian and tried to use his energy to push the nascent soul out of his dantian, something that gave Chenhao a headache happened. His powerful liquid energy was like an ant trying to shake a tree. It could not move the slightest bit. What made Chenhao even more frightened was that if he did not push it, it would be fine. If he pushed it, his energy began to merge with the nascent soul again. Ha! Chenhao, don't kill me. Otherwise, you will also die, you will also die. Only let me temporarily control your body and control the nascent soul, then I will leave your body. Your soul is strong, I can't take over your body. Don't worry, I promise not to kill you and them. This matter is over. At this moment, Ito-Ta, who finally had a chance to breathe, said in Chenhao's mind, "Do you think I am an idiot? Don't you trust me? I, Ito-Ta, always keep my words." "Keep your words, how can you live until now? Shut your beak." Chenhao said coldly, "Trap him for me, don't let him die." "Yes." The 5 divine beasts and the phoenix responded at the same time. "Do you have any way?" Chenhao asked. "If it's external energy, we can help you destroy it, but it's in your dantian, so there's no way." The phoenix said. Damn it, the treasure-hunting sword spirit shrank again. When it's time for him to make a move, he's soft. Chenhao said gloomily. When he entered the devil domain space, the treasure-hunting sword spirit would bubble from time to time, but now, there was not even a trace of aura. Logically speaking, the treasure-hunting sword spirit had a terrifying devouring ability. Although the nascent soul was strong, he should be able to devour it, right? Could it be that because it was a devil-down nascent soul, he could not devour it? Otherwise, why didn't he make a sound? What Chenhao did not know was that the treasure-hunting sword spirit did want to make a move, but unfortunately, it was stopped by the terrifying existence in Chenhao's mind. Therefore, he simply pretended to be dead. Motherfucker! Chenhao suddenly opened his eyes and cursed again. He was very depressed. At this moment, it was as if a bomb had been placed in his dantian and a malignant tumor had been placed in his mind. This malignant tumor was the engine of the bomb and could not be removed. And with the bomb, he could not even use his own energy. It could be said that Chen Hao was now a martial artist with a strong physical body and was in a half-crippled state. "Senior sister, scram. Don't come over." When Chen Hao stood up and looked at Yi Feishue and shouted, Yi Feishue immediately cursed in horror from the sealed light screen. Unfortunately, Chen Hao could not hear her at all. Seeing Yi Feishue's frightened appearance, Chen Hao slightly frowned and said, "Senior sister, I am Chen Hao. That guy did not succeed in seizing the body and is now under my control. Itoda, you will not have a good death." Yi Feishue could hear Chen Hao's words, but how could she believe it? Therefore, her expression was still filled with anger, fear, and unwillingness as she cursed. Although he could not hear it, Chen Hao could determine what Yi Feishue was saying from the shape of her mouth. Helplessly shaking his head, Chen Hao looked at the others. However, when they saw Chen Hao, their eyes were also filled with hatred and fear. Chen Hao was extremely depressed. Obviously, no one believed that he was Chen Hao. "I am Chen Hao. I don't care if you believe it or not, anyway, I am." "Fuck, what's the use of me believing it? You have to believe it too." "Senior sister Yi, listen to me first. The so-called seizing body, I am not very clear about it, but I think it should be to destroy my soul. It should not be to obtain my memories. Otherwise, before he started seizing the body, he would not deliberately ask you about my name and situation. Am I right? Senior sister Yi, you can ask me any question. Try to see if I am Chen Hao or not. Just ask, I can tell what you want to say from the shape of your mouth. This is one point. Also, if I am Itoda, why would I talk nonsense with you now? Let's start. Let's not talk about this. Senior sister Yi, you can ask. Chen Hao said. At this moment, Chen Hao was really out of ideas. He was unable to use his energy. Naturally, he was unable to use Itoda's immortal binding formation. He was also unable to help Yi Feishue and the rest break the seal. Furthermore, even if he had the ability now, he would not dare to do so. If he broke the seal, wouldn't Yi Feishue think that he was Itoda and kill him? Not to mention Yi Feishue, anyone here had enough ability to kill him now. Chen Hao's words caused everyone's eyes to flicker. Obviously, they had not completely lost their rationality and ability to distinguish right from wrong. Others might not know, but Yi Feishue knew about seizing the body. It was exactly as Chen Hao said. Seizing the body is to destroy the other party's soul and occupy the body. As for the mysterious memories, it is impossible to obtain them from the other party's mind. Furthermore, although Chen Hao's words were crude, it was very reasonable. If he was Itoda, why would he waste time? He should have done it to himself earlier. First update. The update is a bit late. Sorry, I did not leave my house for more than a month and accumulated a lot of things. I went out in the morning to do some work. Friends who finished reading, please support Wushan. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes, thank you. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.